you all for the day 2 of ATAL 6 Days Online FDP organized by St. Francis College on driving innovation for sustainable urban growth, smart cities, mobility, logistics, and startup ecosystem. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Pankaj Tiwari, the FDP coordinator, to give a short report on day 1 FDP. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Netra ma'am, and welcome to all the participants. I know quite a few must be moving back to home and trying to log in from your mobiles, and some of you are still on the way. So, thank you so much for joining with us and registering with us with the St. Francis College. So, with a quick snapshot of the day 1, what we have done and how we have arrived. We started with the day with the pre-inaugural ceremony where Mark Wang Lim from Malaysia, he is the dean from the Sunways University and the business school. He gave us the thought-provoking presentation on the business trends in Industry 4.0 and exploring the latest innovation shaping industries and entrepreneurship and related opportunity which are maybe emerging in the upcoming future. Then we started with the very nice sort of brief from the government official, Shri Manimanan P. He is IS officer, and then he spoke about how things happen on the other front when it comes to the government organization. Then we moved to the another session with Lieutenant Colonel Monish Ahuja. He is a retired person. And then he gave a lot of insightful discussion on the foundation of smart cities and their role in sustainable urban development, highlighting the transformative potential of smart infrastructure in creating greener and efficient urban spaces. Closing the day, we got an international resource person again, and then we got Priyanka Shrivastava. She is a professor from the Hult International School in San Francisco. And she engaged the session on the AI for sustainability, where she gave her expert views on how to dwell into the role of AI when it comes to addressing the environmental challenges and fostering sustainable growth. So big thank you to all our speakers for the day 1 and participants for making the day 1 insightful interactive. Looking forward for more enriching sessions. So thank you so much again, and this is how I will bring it for the day 2. I will welcome you for the day 2 of the ATAL FDP. Today we will have again insightful session, 3 different session and 3 different resource person. Each one is an expert in their areas. Before we move on to the day 2, I'll be calling upon a quick reflection of the day 1, and I'll be calling out some of the names. Just see if I could, I would really request, be little flexible, see how what can reflect on the day 1 of the session. Okay, so Channa Reddy sir, are you there? Priyadarshini ma'am, Dr. Priyadarshini? Dr. Chandrika P. Reddy ma'am? Dr. Anita?
Chandrika ma'am is speaking, but I think she's not unmuted herself.
Oh, okay, I'm unable to see her. Can you please unmute her, ma'am?
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, with the first day, really I had to tell you, this is with reference to the Lieutenant Colonel Ahuja sir, his resource, as a resource person, his speech was mainly on biogas and how to start this urbanization, starting from small initiatives, say uh, from the rural India to urbanization. He nicely took over from the small initiatives, whether it is pertaining to biogas or pertaining to waste management. Uh, there are a few examples have really given us an idea on how we can in our daily life also start initiating the small projects that will definitely make a major change going ahead with the urbanization. So that I would like to express, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to give the reflection about what I have got from the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chandrika ma'am. I could see Channa Reddy sir is trying to speak. Netra ma'am, just see if I think he's just requesting to unmute him. Channa Reddy, please raise your hand because there are so many participants, so we are unable to locate. So kindly raise your hand, sir. Channa Reddy sir.
Yes, ma'am. I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
I'm audible. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can
First of
hear
all,
you.
thank you, Pankaj ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. First of all, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity to give some reflections. Actually, this was my first international conference. This is my second year running as a professor, assistant professor. So I was thinking like whether I could able to understand the things which were going in the sessions. But I feel very happy to be the part of this wonderful sessions. Especially I was very inspired by IS Manivanan sir. He speaks very really it is a uh, truth. We can say near to the reality where we are failing for the development. Our growth of the speed of development is very low, but the rise of problems are very high. And that was a very insightful session. And in the last, the Priyanka ma'am, she was telling to adopt the AI model, especially with respect to the healthcare. Like she was telling about Gen AI. That was also very good session. I hope in the next 5 days, I am feeling like I'm going to learn a lot of things here. Hoping for the best, and even I am trying my best to get into the time because my schedule is quite. Still, I'm like on the way to the home.
Sure, sir.
So
So
thank you, ma'am.
thank
Thank
you
you
so
for
much, sir.
your guidance
Yeah,
also
yeah. So
because
so
I was
nice of you, Channa Reddy, sir. You're able to make it at least to give your reflection. Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Priyadarshini. Dr. Priyadarshini, ma'am. I think she has raised her hand. Can you please unmute her, ma'am? Priyadarshini, ma'am, kindly unmute yourself.
Good evening, ma'am. Access has been given to Priyadarshini, ma'am. Ma'am can unmute and speak.
In the meanwhile, let's move on. I think we can get started, Netra ma'am, because in the interest of time, I understand Ravi is already on the line.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving us a glimpse of day one and also taking the reflection from the participants. Now I would like to call upon Ms. Anusha, Assistant Professor, Department of Management, PG, to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Ravi Mukundan, CEO and Lead Consultant, 10XG Ventures, Bengaluru. Over to you, ma'am.
I think good evening, everyone. I have unmuted. Is it sorry for the interruption? Hello?
Is it Priyadarshini, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes,
Priyadarshini,
yes.
ma'am, please go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I would like to congratulate all the organizers for organizing such an important initiative for the faculty development program, And my special regards to Dr. Pankaj Tiwari for such a beautiful initiative. As we have Yesterday's we have attended first day program, faculty development program. It was enlightening and fostering different kind of growth and collaboration. As we see, it's required for the sustainable urban development, and it's especially sparking the fresh ideas for the youngsters and all the faculty and students. This is the current scenarios need, as we see. And the session what it's a specifically encourage self reflection and inspiring for everyone to enhance better practices for the smart cities. And the session, it was very meaningful towards specifically integrating technology for greener and smarter future. So we are so much thankful to all of you for organizing such an important faculty development program, and we are grateful and humble to join of this program. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
So thank you so much, Priyadarshini ma'am. I think please give our regards to Jyoti Nivas College. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Please.
ma'am. Over to Anusha, ma'am. Anusha, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Ravi Mukundan, a dynamic professional with a wealth of experience across diverse industries. Mr. Ravi is celebrated for his ability to scale business and diverse transformative growth. Beginning his career as an assistant manager with Taj Group of Hotels, he quickly rose through the rank, taking on the leadership roles such as head of Karnataka Circle at Bharti Airtel Limited, delivery leader at Fidelity Investments, zonal business head and head of operational excellence at Bharti Airtel Limited, business head at Asina Softnet Technologies Private Limited, currently as a co-founder of 10xG Mark Tech Solutions. Mr. Ravi brings a unique blend of strategic insights and operational expertise to help business achieve exponential growth. Mr. Ravi's career highlights include expanding rural distribution networks, leading global scales and marketing initiatives, and diverse demand generation and fulfillment strategies. Beyond Mr. Ravi's corporate contribution, Mr. Ravi is a sought after speaker and mentor, inspiring entrepreneurs with insights on sustainability, ESG best practices, and capability building. We are happy to have you amongst us today, sir. I kindly request you to please take over the session.
Thank you. You have the presentation deck.
Ravi, I would suggest you can, share from your end. It will be easy for to coordinate. Ma'am, can you please give access to Ravi so that he can share his slides?
Okay, so let me share this then. Is everybody able to see this?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Fantastic, fantastic. Is it on the deck? Because I'm not able to see my shared screen.
We can see that. Are you opening the PDF file, Ravi, by chance? Looks like it is a PDF. I don't know whether
Okay.
now it's not visible to us.
Okay. Just give me a minute.
You may have to mirror your video, Ravi, because I could see it is a mirror image appearing on the 10x. So kindly just see where your backdrop is coming only the mirror image.
Okay. Sorry. Is it okay now?
No, Ravi, we are not unable to see anything.
Okay. Not able to share this. Would you by any chance have my other PPT which I sent?
Um, is that the one which you sent on the email?
Yes.
All right, so let me try that.
Okay.
Ravi, looks like that was a PDF. It was not a PPT. So what I'll do is I'll try to run from my side, or maybe I'll just share with Netra ma'am or Anusha ma'am. You're there on the WhatsApp. I can send you. Will that work for you? Anusha ma'am, I'm sending it to, or maybe I'll just send it to Netra ma'am. I'm just sending it to you. Just check if you're able to run it through from your end.
Yes, ma'am.
If you want, I can actually share that PPT as
Yeah,
well.
I just have sent it to Netra ma'am as well. So I think we can get started, Ravi. In the meanwhile, we'll start sharing. Netra ma'am, just please check your WhatsApp.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So right. Anyway, while the slide comes up, I just wanted to first say thank you to Dr. Pankaj for inviting me and to the team. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ravi Mukundan, and I'm a business consultant and CEO of 10XG Ventures. We work extensively with startups across domains and sizes, enabling business success. And needless to add, some of the areas which we'll be talking about today are areas of great interest to me personally. Right. So, what are we going to talk about today? We would talk about the concept of smart cities. I understand some of the other speakers have already been speaking about that, and but I promise I will talk only from a innovation and startup point of view, right? And we will talk about what makes smart cities smart. What is the differentiator from a city perspective, from a smart city perspective, and then we will build on to understand how it fosters innovation and touch upon a few companies, right, which are solving real world problems of smart cities from an innovation standpoint, which is relevant to the flow of fostering the ecosystem. Then we will talk about the ecosystem, how it can be fostered for developing startups and aid smart cities, whether it is a public sector. We will talk about how central and state governments are helping, how consultants and mentors are helping, how private sector companies are helping. And lastly, we will talk about how educational institutions and educators, like most of you, can enable entrepreneurs and startups. Yeah, does that sound good? Fantastic. So before we move, may I request each and every one of you to just check if you've received a Google form. If you've received a Google form for the same. Dr. Pankaj, have you got the Google form there?
Did you share anything with me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have.
Can you share that again, Ravi?
Yeah, sure. I'll share it in the chat if it's
Yes,
possible.
yes. I think that will be fine because we can get going. Please share
Yeah,
that.
okay.
Participants, kindly check the Google link which Ravi is mentioning. Please ensure that you are checking on the chat box.
So are you all able to see the Google form link?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Please guide them, Ravi. What needs to be done?
Yeah, sure. May I just request each one of you to just open that and just put in your names on that, right? And if anybody has not received it, please refer to that chat sheet. And
I will be sharing on the WhatsApp as well, Ravi.
yeah.
The main group. Yeah. It is
Yeah.
going.
Fantastic. So we can just open that and then move on to that, because that we will talk about as we move during the day. Okay. So we'll talk about smart cities. Let's move on to the slide number 3. Yeah. So when we talk about smart cities, right? And slide number 3, if you could just move on to that. Yeah. So like some of the esteemed presenters have earlier spoken about smart cities, let me, at the cost of being repetitive, state some of the definition of a smart city. Smart city is a high-tech, intensive, and advanced city that connects people, information, and city elements using new technologies. Right. So we're talking about people, right? We're talking about information. We're talking about the city elements, and we're talking about the use of technology, right? So these are the three: the people, the process, information, and technology in a connected world is at the core of a smart city. Yeah. Let's move on to slide number 4. There is no doubt, a big emphasis on communication technology, and aided in no small measure by the explosion in data availability and consumption across the world and all around us. And we use this to create new solutions to reduce wastages, conserve electricity, improve transportation, improve compliance, etc. So that's the key part of a smart city. I will not delve too much on this, but since there are other people who are talking about this, let's move to slide number 5. Yeah, a use case. I'll quickly mention. Yesterday, Major Banivanan was also talking about China, right? So a word here to mention now how China has been growing the smart city use case. Right, China started the smart city concept in early 2012 and focused on 5 areas, which have become the benchmark for all initiatives across the globe. Right, these are information and data networks and broadband access, that is the communication part. Digitization of planning management across public and private sector, right? The planning management part. Smart infrastructure with metros, monorails, expressways, flyovers, designed using real-time traffic and congestion data, right? Convenience of public services, access to parking, pollution data, bus timings, access to public utilities, etc. Modernizing and industrial development, making new technologies accessible to all and everybody around. Okay? And sophisticated social governance, increasing compliance in the city with real-time cameras. You must have seen that in most of the smart cities around, right? Especially Bangalore and Vizag is using real-time data on a much more active basis, even to monitor traffic signals, right? So that's how China has put, and you've seen it's a huge number of smart cities that China has actually embarked on, and they're really putting the accelerator as far as smart cities and usage of technology for city administration is concerned. Right. So let's move to slide number 6, and that's critical to start piece. Right. Now here's where this gets interesting. May I request each one of you to quickly refer to the Google form and just go to the first question, right? The first sheet there, which says 3 roles which you feel technology plays in smart cities. 3 distinct roles. You don't need to elaborate. Just put 3 roles which you feel technology plays in smart cities. Right? Let's quickly have that. Everyone. 3 roles which you feel technology plays in smart cities. Yeah. Some people are yet to fill in, but let's move on in the interest of time. Yeah. We will now talk about smart city differentiators. Can we move to the next slide, please? Smart city differentiators. Okay. And before we start on to smart city differentiators, we'll move to the second question, right? To understand more about the difference of why a government plans to make a city a smart city. What are the areas of focus that require a change? Let's look at this piece, right? 3 or 4 points, just 3 points that you feel are differentiators of a smart city, or in the layman's language, difference between a smart city and any other city, right? Just 3 or 4 points that you feel. Smart city versus any other normal city in India, Indian context of India or any other place, right? If you could just put in 3 or 4 points, 3 points, fair enough, right? Differentiator between a smart city and any other city. May I request you, everyone, to fill in. It's actually helpful if everybody participates in this, right? Responses haven't come in from everyone, but I'm sure people are still just checking that and will fill it in, right? So let's move on. Let's move to the next slide. So differentiators between a smart city and any other city. Let's look at this image. Are all of you able to see the next slide, please? Yeah, are all of you able to see this slide, right? And there are 2 images, one on the left and one on the right. What does this image convey? Assuming that the image on the left is of a smart city and the one on the right is any other city, right? Any guesses? Right. The key point is connected infrastructure. Connectivity in way more than one way, right? That's the key part of a smart city, right? Let's move on to the next slide. Let's look at this, right? Now, the advent of digital era presented opportunities and challenges to apply technology to create urban environments that are more efficient, sustainable, and livable. Transformation into smart city involves modification in planning, management, and operational processes. Right? At the very heart of this is not just internet connectivity, but the way it connects the different aspects of life in a smart city, be it management, citizen engagement, access, mobility, etc. This is very important to understand because when you talk about innovation and fostering the innovation or a startup concepts in the smart city context, these pieces become very important. The citizen engagement, right? The people, access, mobility, right? Management, right? These become extremely critical, right, in the transformation of a city onto a smart city. Let's move on to the next slide. Smart cities versus regular cities, connected objects or budget planning, right? Let's understand this. The difference here is that it is a deliberate use of technology for improvement of a city, right? It's infrastructure, it's people, their quality of life, right? There is this entire example which people give of the lamppost, right? A simple lamppost. Our regular city has regular lampposts, but in smart cities, a smart lamppost can incorporate LED lights, It can incorporate, motion detector sensors, and it's being used. Okay, it's been used in most cities. Even in Bangalore, it was piloted, and where you can actually have that to even capture air quality data, right? Their sensors on the lamppost itself. Now let's look at an example of Barcelona, right? Barcelona, which is one of the smart cities and one of the major destinations for industrial fairs, including the telecom fair. Now the city of Barcelona reduced their energy usage by about 30%, right? Resulting in over $37 million, which was saved every year, right? We will talk more about this subsequently. So cost management is a big issue for city administrations. And yesterday, again, Major Marivanan had talked about some elements of this. But because smart cities technologies prioritize efficiency, they provide lots of opportunities to reduce spending. Right? One estimate says you can save up to 3 times the amount that you typically spend on any of the city's operations. Right? So that's something which is very important when you talk about a regular city and a smart city. Let's move on to the next slide. Streamlined transportation or environment friendly, but a connected world can also transform user experiences, right? We're already seeing that when you talk about examples of a Ola or a Uber or any of the new age delivery platforms, right? But even on local transportation can change with the use of technology. In a smart city, you'll be able to consult up to the second information about bus arrivals. Now you're already using that with, whether it is Zepto or Zomato or Ola or Uber or whatever, right? You're able to track where the person is or where the vehicle is at any given point in time. And even I think in Bangalore, BMTC offers availability of bus data and stuff, right? So whether it's a smartphone app or a bus station with a display of the latest information, this information can actually be shown or used for the benefit of the citizens. It's a lot of buzz around these smart cities and sustainable cities, right? Now we can safely say that smart cities can be better sustainable cities, use data more energy efficiently, and identify areas of improvement. So these are critical factors when we talk about smart cities, right? Moving to the next slide. The engaged citizens part, right? The biggest catalyst in slide number 13, right? The biggest catalyst in anything, just the slide before this, okay? The biggest catalyst in anything a government may want to implement is at its heart, right? And the heart of the entire initiatives here are the people, its citizens, and their engagement with the initiatives. In a smart city, citizens create the city, right? That means a smart city with the use of technology are adaptable to the citizens' needs, right? And can grow and change with the residents. Right? This means that citizens can work on solutions to problems quickly and flexibly, right? And in the concept of innovation and in entrepreneurship in the context of smart cities, this is very important because it is the citizens or the local citizens who can understand some of these problems and actually work on them. It also means that real people's everyday problems can be addressed, right? Sometimes city officials in a regular city may not even understand or may not even realize that a certain issue needs fixing, right? In a smart city, citizens can make sure that they know about it and can offer solutions as well. And that's where the innovation part comes in. Yeah. So let's understand, right? Let's move on to the concept of fostering innovation, right? So how do we understand, right? How can it be different from any other city? Let's look at how this can foster a culture of innovation and change using technology. So let's move on to the next slide. A smart city aims to increase its competitiveness through innovation, right? While improving the quality of life of its citizens, at the same time offering a technologically advanced context for users and stakeholders. Right? The smart city concept encompasses factors that include ICT and IoT elements, such as fiber optic networks, cameras, sensors, connected devices, and open data analytics. Right? Smart cities leverage a combination of skills, knowledge, and capital to foster an urban ecosystem that facilitates interactions to promote an innovative and dynamic urban dimension. Let's understand skills, knowledge, and capital, right, to foster an urban ecosystem. This is very, very critical when you talk about the fostering the environment, which we'll talk about shortly. Right? Typically, smart city projects involve not just multinationals and local authorities, but also local companies and startups, right? Who transfer general technological solutions and produce innovation or innovative solutions. This is also an important factor. Nobody knows a city's problem like its own citizens, right? And when they're engaged, then the solutions can be more relevant, more holistic. Okay. Let's move to the next slide. Sure. Innovation. The relationship between innovation and cities is such that cities are the center of innovation and the entrepreneurship process. Right? This smart city is perceived as collaborative ecosystem, which we said earlier. People, companies, businesses, educational institutions, all of this. Right? It's important to understand that at the core of fostering an ecosystem of innovation and excellence, we have all of these things, the local ecosystem working together with entrepreneurship based on local knowledge and supported by the local ecosystem. The role of local companies and knowledge is very, very critical. Currently, irrespective of political divides, there is a lot being done and a lot of good intent initiatives, but a smart city can only be can avoid being just a technology-centric focus only if the entire ecosystem, whether it is people, companies, businesses, everything comes together. Otherwise, it's just a set of random technology initiatives, which is just force-fed into a city's operations, right? I hope we are good on time. Right. So yes, smart cities, therefore, is all about partnerships. Right. Smart city initiatives require collaboration. They require involvement from government agencies, businesses, community organizations, academia, and the citizens. Collaborating with businesses and the academia brings in the know-how as well as research capabilities. Right. Fantastic. So let's move on to the next piece, right? So what do we feel are the opportunities for startup, right? If you're all with me till now, all on the same page.
Ravi, one request. One question doesn't have the entire options. Kindly update everyone, and we can request all the participant to give their responses on the chat box.
Sure. We can do that. Here, when we talk about the opportunities for startup, if we could just look at what are the top 5 things or 3 things that come to your mind, right? Top 5 opportunities for innovation or startups. Doesn't matter if it's been already explored or exploited or capitalized. Doesn't matter, right? Just any 5 ideas that come to your mind, right? On everybody, right? Just put that, and maybe you can, if you require some time, you can actually put it on the chat box, like Dr. Pankaj just mentioned, right? So my request, let's just have any 3 to 5 opportunities that come to your mind, right? When you're talking about opportunities for startup in a smart city context. Okay, shall we move on? Right. So let's move on to the next slide after this. So just to recap some of the opportunities, there's a car-free city, there's a resilient city, food supply chains.
Anusha ma'am and Netra ma'am, sorry Ravi, I think the chat is disabled. That's what I've been receiving the messages from participants. Kindly enable the chat box.
Yes, ma'am, we will check.
I'm sorry.
Please continue, Ravi. So sorry.
Cool.
So sorry.
So we'll anyway move on. So energy informatics, intelligent transportation system, mass surveillance, right? Wireless networks, net metering, even in the solar world, we are seeing net metering, pervasive informatics, vertical farming, right? Urban vitality, urban informatics, urban farming, computing, sustainable cities, smart village, smart highways, smart grids, right? These are all opportunities when we talk about startups and smart cities, right? These are all opportunities for monetizing. There's enough to do in all of these areas. Right. So let's move on to the next piece. We'll just quickly talk about a couple of examples, in different areas, which I thought is pertinent because that shapes some of the things on being relevant. Right. So there's a company called Athena Smart Cities. Their Athena core product is an integration platform that connects various city systems and services using wired or wireless networks, and provides integrated dashboard or an integrated platform for data like the transportation networks, energy grids, water system, waste management. Now just imagine this entire piece of data, disparate data from different organizations, different teams, right? This can actually be integrated and seen as one cohesive data source, right? Transportation, energy, water, waste, traffic, right? All of this as one single piece. That's somebody who's done something innovative there, right? There's another one called Kentu. They again talk about most organizations having siloed data. So here, this company talks about integrating this entire data, and their middleware actually integrates these fragmented streams, and their AI tool actually extracts meaning across all of these data sources which are disparate, right? So from all the sensor data, tools, or all these sensors across different data sources. So that's the kind of things which is being done at a smart city from a data perspective or a data analytics perspective, right? So this is just to give a background with regards to where people are using innovation, or people are starting startups for a smart city perspective. Yeah. Let's look at the next one. Energy conservation. Yeah. So there's a company called Ecota, where most older buildings still lack the cohesion between isolated controls managing the various equipments and supplies and outputs, right? And this Ecota actually helps in tackling energy overuse from disjointed sensors and equipments, right? Conjugating all dispersed controls into a unified dashboard, and enables reducing AC loads or in underutilized areas and of our illumination, etc. Right? So it's about intelligently managing energy usage wherever it is required or not required, right? Another company, TPO, right, and their TEP batteries utilize phase change compositions using thermal energy, right? Now they can reduce site emissions and energy consumption by up to 60%, right? Including offering retrofits, right? So these are smart ways in which people have thought of solving, city-centric problems, or problems which is very relevant from a smart city perspective. Yeah. So that's how people have used this. Let's quickly talk about the last one. Again, in mobility. Yeah. Swiftly, there's a company called Swiftly that enables data-driven decision making to better connect people across essential city services, where the agencies gain unprecedented visibility into usage metrics like delays, transfers, boarding, density patterns across the entire transportation network in one intuitive interface, right? Apart from giving predictive analytics, right? Another company, Nav Mobility, they leverage sensors and AI to unlock insights from road and traffic patterns. Now look at this. Capabilities like highly precise LiDAR scanning and positional modeling enables urban developers to simulate the impact of proposed changes using geospatial representations. Right? So the entire traffic, the congestion management, accessibility, collisions, emissions, all of this can be checked in one single database. So the purpose of sharing some of this was to give a flavor of how these startups are addressing these real world problems, right? All affecting the city at large, and all of them aimed to reduce or improve the quality of life with the intelligent use of technology. Yeah. Let's move on to the next slide. Right. So let's see how all this helps us, right, in this context. Startups Right? Let's go back to the Google form. I know this is more like a classroom exercise where it can help you put your things and thoughts together. And even when you need it at a later assessment level later, but these some things which can actually help you. Right? Let's look at the fourth question. What, according to you, are the key facilitators of Google startups? Key facilitators of startups and innovation. Right? Key facilitators of startups and of innovation. Right? What are the contributing factors? What are the key facilitators? Like Ma'am said, please put it on the chat box or on the form, whichever we can have that accessed and the data shared. Fourth question: key facilitators of startups and of innovation. My request to everybody to please fill in this, because this actually helps everybody to understand this much better. Right. So let's talk about fostering ecosystem, right? And I'll start with the typical piece of defining this, right? Let's look at this. A set of interconnected entrepreneurial actors, right? Both potential and existing, right? Entrepreneurial organizations, that is firms, venture capitalists, angels, business banks, right? Institutions, that is whether it is universities, colleges, public sector agencies, financial bodies, and entrepreneurial processes, that is any of the data talking about the growth of an industry or growth of or trend lines, right? Whether it is high growth firms, blockbuster and entrepreneurship, right? Serial entrepreneurs, sellouts, and their thought processes, right? All of this, just the basic processes or the insights into running these firms, right? Which formally or informally coalesce to connect, mediate, and govern the performance within the local entrepreneurial environment. Too much of English, right? Very deep. Let's look at the constituents. Very, very simply. One, an entrepreneur who's already jumped in or is wanting to jump in, can be a student, employee, anybody, right? Two, an organization, whether it is for funding, whether it is for mentoring, whether it is for incubating. Three, an institution, whether it is educational or regulatory from a government perspective or otherwise, right? Third, or the fourth one, is processes, right? Business building, analytics, all the data insights, right? So we're talking about four things: entrepreneur, the organization, institutions, and the processes. All of this connect and together constitute the environment for startups to grow. Let's understand this a little bit more. Let's look at the next slide. This is more simpler than the Gyan of the previous slide, right? It looks, definition is always a whole lot of English, right? Now let's look at this. Now everyone here has a role to play, right? Large companies, educational institutions, including colleges, universities, funding organizations, right? Which promote business growth and profitability, right? Service providers, including advisors, mentors, consultants, partners for different services, etc. Research organizations who are tracking change and problems, government departments and initiatives. All of these are part of the startup ecosystem, right? Each of them have a very, very clear role to play as far as fostering the culture, fostering the entire ecosystem for startups is concerned. Right? Let's move on to the next slide. So here we are looking at the interplay between each of the inputs and the output. And the output is typically, a successful startup. We are on slide number 30, ma'am. Right? The output is typically a successful startup. Right? So the research and development initiatives, right? Talent pools or human resources, infrastructure and supports, including grants, incubation centers. All of these are the infrastructure and supports, right? The policy and environment is primarily facilitated by the government, access to finance through banks, grants, or VCs, etc. And of course, educational institutions. All of these are very, very critical, and they are the backbones for this entire startup ecosystem, right? And they foster the ecosystem to deliver a successful startup, right? So whether it is the research, or the data, right, which gives you what the typical problems are or what are the kind of opportunities, the talent pool of the people, right, the resources, infrastructure and support, incubation centers, etc., policy and environment, right, the funding, access to finance, and of course, educational institutions. All of these are essentially the backbones for fostering the startup ecosystem. All of these have a role to play. So, like when we talked about some of the activities or some of the ideas for smart cities which people have used, now that has come from real world problems, right? So people have identified that there's an opportunity to reduce energy conservation in a particular city using some form of technology, to reduce traffic congestion using some form of technology, right? And that's been promoted, by the government. That's been promoted by people working in that company or in that area. That's been promoted by banks or VCs funding or providing finance for fostering that or promoting that technology, and therefore it's today a success. Right? Let's move on. Ma'am, can we move to slide 31, please? 31. Next. After this. Next. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Before this. Right. Let's look at the one before this, ma'am. Yeah. So let's look at each of these in detail. Research and development initiatives, right? So private and public sector involvement and project-based engagements, broader research across educational institutions. There's a role for educational institutions to play in research as well, right? All of you, most of the people in the education sector, right? So all of you would be really aware. There's a huge role which research can play, to identify opportunities which can actually be built into successful businesses or opportunities, right? And the smart city initiatives itself, when a government or when any department or government sets out an agenda for a smart city, there's a huge amount of research which goes in to say that these are problems, these are the 5 things, 10 things, 15 things, 20 things which we would like to focus our energies and monies on, right? Educational institutions also have the opportunity for dedicated mentors, like I've seen most of the colleges today, and where dedicated mentors to encourage entrepreneurship, right? There's an innovation hub for startup ideation to promote. I mean, recently I've seen that in the college there, the hackathons, right? Whether it's valid or not valid is a secondary question. The clear part is there's an innovation hub where you're encouraging ideas, where you're encouraging the thought of ideation, right? That's very important. Talent pool, when you're talking about new technologies, require new capabilities, right? The whole world today is talking about AI, right? So the entire world needs that kind of competencies and capabilities. And more importantly, like I'd mentioned earlier, local problems need local talents, people who should have lived that problem, right? Who know that, okay, bus is or local transport is going to create an issue, is going to take time, and that's something which we can address here. So that's part of the entire ecosystem. Let's move to the next slide, ma'am. Infrastructure and support. Yeah, so startup and theme-based innovation hubs, whether it is private or public sector, right? That's very critical. Whether it is incubation sectors, centers, or access to experts, there's a huge amount of that which is all around you, right? A whole lot of shared working spaces, and public sector, government itself providing a whole lot of incubation centers in different colleges or different public, government. Centers, right? Access to finance, again, incubation hubs in the spotlight, including providing opportunities for access to the VCs, right? So whether you in Karnataka you have a KDM, right, Digital Empowerment Mission, and you have bodies like TIE, right? Now these have theme-based events, and where they're promoting people to come up and present and to showcase their ideas, their innovative concepts. And there are different awards and things which we'll talk about in a bit again, right? Policy and regulations. Startup India is a huge fill up for the entire ecosystem. right? In Karnataka, you have the K-Tech, right? And all the states have now got a dedicated startup policy, right? Including innovation and entrepreneurship in development and at work, right? So whether it is a public sector or a policy decision at an education institution or a work at in any of the private sector, there's a thought of entrepreneurship development. There's a thought of innovation, right? And that's very, very critical, right? So let's move on to the next slide. So basically, there are 9 key elements here: the government and regulation, right? The research and development and innovation system, infrastructure and attractivity, markets, customers, financing, entrepreneurial skills and development and education, rather, culture, networks and community, business support, right? So government regulations, research, infrastructure, market or customers, financing opportunities, skill development, creating the culture of that where you have these networks, you have communities which are working together, and of course business support. So let's look at how educational institutions and educators can contribute. I request everybody to just look at the 5th question. And the 5th question on the screen is, what, according to you, are the top 3 ways educational institutions can promote a culture of entrepreneurship from a startup and innovation perspective? 3 ways educational institutions can promote a culture of entrepreneurship. 3 ways educational institutions can promote a culture of entrepreneurship. You don't need to elaborate, just put 3 thoughts that come to your mind, right? You can put that in the chat box as well. Ma'am, we are in slide 35. So after this, next. Yeah, we are here. Right. So let's move on to talk about how, let's move on, ma'am. Subsequent slides. Right, next slide. So how can an educational institution set up a startup culture? Right? How can they actually create this? Point number 1, establish a clear value and guiding principle. Establish an approach as a set of guiding principles stating the institute's value, commitments, and approach it will take to foster innovation. Create that entire document, right? That's very, very important. Most institutions today are creating a differentiator for the students by having this clear guiding principle, right? The second point, very, very, it's a conundrum of sorts. Be impractical, right? Be impractical to, promote innovative ideas. Impractical, not thinking within all the constraints, right? That's how people can actually look at something different. Otherwise, you get bound by all the constraints around any of your thought processes. Building a dynamic team, right? A dynamic team of faculty and student representatives to share data or information across the campus. Now the work gets shared and new innovators or new people would come forward for this, right? And welcome talented student contributors. That is, in addition to full-time staff and engagement of students, we get benefit from that. And over the course of a year, establishes a team of student contributors across the years, right? First year or second year or whatever, who are best fit to accelerate these projects, right? And that's some of the winning practices which we've seen. I'm sure many people are already embarked on this pieces. Design a model for leveraging opportunities for discovery and scale, right? There's a clear opportunity to be one of the largest living laboratories of sorts, right? For conducting experiments and, ensuring rapid development and deployment of innovation, right? Design a model for, getting these things in order, right? Products for with rather than for users. The concept of the local engagement, right? Instead of an ROI, measure the engagement, measure the educational impact, right? The minimum viable products, the MVPs, which are called, are creating learning communities which have a greater impact on campus with knowledge sharing. That's equally important. ROI is not just with regards to how many people went out, but what is the actual impact, or how engaged are the entire student ecosystem into contributing here, right? And embrace emergence and continue to strengthen capabilities, right? And the concept of pivoting to new, opportunities, making a course correction, whether it is to test a hypothesis or a strategy or any of the engines of growth. Moving there is also very, very important from when an educational institution is talking about, how they can actually put this. Right. So what can an educational institute do? Aligning curricula with real world challenges. Universities can add courses. There are already many universities who've added, courses and segments where students can work on real world projects. Right. This bridges the gap between theoretical and practical knowledge. Right. Experienced entrepreneurs as mentors. There's a mentorship program in many of the education program, institutions. I'm sure many educational institutions that many of you represent are already doing this, but this is a best practice, right? Where experienced entrepreneurs take time to mentor students. It's like passing down a treasure trove of wisdom, right? They're not just offering advice, but real life experiences and tips, right? And it's not just about learning entrepreneurship, it's also about gaining confidence, right? To navigate the unpredictable challenges in a business, right? Industry collaboration actually exposes students to real world challenges, right? Trends, opportunities, practical skills, networks, right? The entire piece, right? And it is critical for an entrepreneurial success, bridging the academia with industry best practices. This is very, very important. Industry collaboration, mentorship programs, and curricula as alignment, right? Let's move to the next slide. And the key part or the output of this piece should be that it is not only measuring how much a person's IQ has improved, but it is also about how many people who were having an entrepreneurial mindset succeeded, and how many who did not probably have an entrepreneurial mindset came forward to with some innovative idea, right? So it's not about just improving IQ, but also about people who would have been an entrepreneur anyway, who had an entrepreneurial streak in them, any of the students, but people who were probably not in that category but came up with ideas, or were able to contribute, also is one of the KPIs which an education institution can track, right? And that's the best practice there, right? So some of the winning best practices which I've seen in different organizations or different educational institutions: forums for innovation, clubs, right? Many people have unmanned vehicles, NFC payments, drones, IoT use cases, right? Structured environment to ideate, like many institutions have a hackathon or an idea lab, etc. Structured research environment. There's a team which tries to only look at sourcing funds for research by the students, led by a faculty, right? Offer an environment of inclusivity and creativity, right? When you're encouraging budding entrepreneurs and you're getting a representation from an entire cross section of students, right? That's the environment of inclusivity and creativity, right? So that's important as well. So let's look at what the government or the private public sector is typically doing, right? And that brings us to the sixth part. We'll have a couple of more slides only. Right, bear with me. We will use the forms or the chatbot. What, according to you, are the top 3 ways that a central or a state government can enable startups and innovation from a smart city perspective? 3 ways that the government can enable startups. What, according to you, are the top 3 ways that a central or a state government can enable startups and innovation from a smart cities perspective? Right? We need more people to respond, actually. Right. So let me move on with that. So let's look at some of the initiatives or some of the schemes from the government. Right. The Digital Communication Innovation Square. Right. That's one of the initiatives, and it is intended to catalyze a startup culture and build a strong and inclusive ecosystem for innovation and entrepreneurship in India. Right. This is defined by the DPIIT, and are working towards development or improvement of products and processes with scalable business models. This is directly promoting entrepreneurship, right? And the overall fund, which is available, is about 124 crores. And the benefits include assistance in research, design, development, POC testing, IPR creation, running pilot projects, and marketing, manufacturing. That is the entire value chain. Typically, get an opportunity for funding, right? And there's a kitty of about 124 crores which the government has put towards this. DCIS can actually check that as well. The next one. Ma'am, can I request you to just move on to the next, to the slides? I'm on slide 45 right now. Move forward. Move forward. Move forward. Move forward. Move forward. Next one. Yeah. Right. No, before this. Right. So the Genesis scheme, which is launched under the Digital India Genesis umbrella by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, right? This is aimed at promoting Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, right? Successful startups from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. The overall funding kitty available here is about 490 crores over a 5-year period. And it includes startup incubators, accelerators, investment platforms, any organization supporting entrepreneurship, including academic and R&D institutions, right, that have the intent, expertise, and allocation to support student entrepreneurs and innovators in their local community. So this is the purpose, which is to promote, support student entrepreneurs and innovators in their local community. 490 crores is the budget which has been kept aside for this. Let's move on to the next slide, ma'am. Let's talk about what the government of Telangana has done. And the government of Telangana has been a stellar provider in the growth story there for innovative support startups. The support ranges between 5 to 50 lakhs, depending on the nature of the startup. And most of these are subsidies and reimbursement of a significant amount of the spends incurred typically in the scaling up area, right? There's a significant focus on inclusivity, whether it is gender based or privilege based, including urban and rural existence. So if you were to look at it from a smart city or from a with relevance to this particular context, there is a significant amount of subsidies and reimbursement which the government is offering for entrepreneurship within the cities itself, right? So, and the kitty there is, ranging between 5 to 50 lakhs from the government of Telangana, right? Let's move to the next slide, ma'am. Let's talk about what the government of Karnataka is doing. Now, the Karnataka has been at the at the forefront, right, of the startup explosion in India, right? And they have amongst the highest number of startups, along with Gurgaon, right? Their key initiative for startups or for promoting entrepreneurship is under the Elevate program, right? And their rewards and support which they provide include grants of up to 50 lakhs. There's an incubation support that they provide, mentoring by experts, and VC connects, that is access to potential funding that they enable for this. There's NASCOM, there's TIE, there's KDM, there's a lot of forums that are created which are working together with the government agencies, enabling this entire initiative, right? And this is no small surprise because Karnataka today has amongst the highest number, right? Bangalore itself has got amongst the highest number of startups coming up every year, right? And that's the ecosystem which is developed. That's the ecosystem of support. That's the ecosystem of mentorship, the ecosystem of access to venture capital, which is driving this, right? Let's talk about what, say, a government of Tamil Nadu is doing. right? They're a little late entrant into creating a full policy here, but they're making significant strides, and they have plans to set up a fund of about 250 crores and have a techpreneur program to provide funding for idea to POC, right? Stages, roughly about 50 lakh. They want to put as revolving fund for academic institutions and private technology business incubators for getting more ideas, more technology focused startups and deliver in this. So these are things which the government of Tamil Nadu is doing with the proposed kitty is about 250 crores. Right. Let's talk about the government of Karnataka. Let's look at they have an IT policy for startups till 2027. Let's move to the next slide, ma'am. Yeah, so they have a IT and a startup policy till 2027, which has been outlined. Let's move to the next slide, ma'am. Yeah, so they have followed a very hands-on approach, right? They have a model of supporting both capex as well as opex, right? Which benefits the typical entrepreneurs, the series entrepreneurs. From an employment generation incentive, there's a one-time support of up to 60,000 rupees per female employee and 50,000 per male employee in an IT or an ITES company. That's direct one-time support which they're providing. They have an interest subsidy of up to 1 crore or 7% of a term loan for a maximum of 5 years. So anybody who's investing there and is taking some kind of loans there is an interest subsidy which the government is providing. There's a capex support, right? They are entitled to up to 25% of their capex expenditure, subject to a maximum of 50 crores, right? And this is done in about 20 equal installments. Right, so that's a capex support which is being offered. They have an opex support which is up to 15% of the amount that they're eligible from an opex perspective, right? And this again is up to 20 crores per year for a 5-year period. They have EPF support, contribution support on some of the schemes, and of course upskilling support in many of the industries and new age technology sector, right? Let's move on to the next slide, ma'am. Right. This is not an exhaustive list, and most states are now having a very exciting startup policy. And they aim to foster culture and an active ecosystem of entrepreneurs, especially in the smart city context of technology. Let's look at the seventh form, and let me tell you, this is the last one. Right? What, according to you, are the top 3 ways that private sector companies and non-governmental organizations can enable startups? Earlier, we talked about 3 ways in which the government can enable. Now we're talking about private sector or any of the other non-governmental organization can enable startups and innovation from a smart cities perspective. No need to elaborate. Just 3 ways where private sector or other companies can enable startups. Right. So let's move on in the interest of time. Right. Okay. Let's look at how the private sector is and how they can contribute. Many of the private sector majors are in business for years, right? And they actively use technology and are active in one or more sectors in a smart city context. So they have periodic innovative events and hackathons and internal innovation hubs, right? They run internal innovation contests. They set aside space and facility for incubation hubs, right, for innovative ideas. Every year, some of the big companies set aside resources and funds for funding some of these POCs, right? That's many of the leading companies have an ecosystem which is fostering this within their entire within their teams itself. Many offer partnerships for incubation centers. Many create platforms and events for mentorship and best practice sharing, right? Each of these is important because when you're enabling people with this kind of support within the organization, there's that much more freedom, there's that much more goodwill that they're generating with their employees. So, right. And at a broader or a larger level, outside the organization as well, including almost all citizens at large, many companies like Google, AWS, Dell, they run innovative schemes for promotion of technology startups by enablement. So they give, X or like Azure or Google or AWS, they give X amount of, infrastructure for an X amount of period for starting up different startups. Right. And of course, there are forums for cross-pollination of ideas as well as sharing challenges. Right. That's something that they do. Let's move on to the next slide, ma'am. Let's understand the role of VCs and private equity companies. So India's venture capital landscape matured in the last year, right? And as per data sources, a moderation of venture capital funding in India, it moved from about $25.7 billion, right? And moved up by about 9.6 billion, right, over the previous year, right? And private equity or venture capitalist investment has been at record levels, touching about 82 billion in 21-22. So that means that there is a growing amount of funds coming in to help entrepreneurs and ideas in India. Right. So this is the big opportunity for all. Since India has, become the most populous country in the world, right, in 2023, and roughly about 67% of India's population lies in the working age group, right, and roughly 25% of the incremental global workforce over the next decade will be from India, right. So this is a huge opportunity. By 2030, India's working population age itself will exceed, people in the working age itself will exceed 1 billion, right? So this is a huge opportunity, and that's how increasing the funding opportunity available is how private equities companies are supporting. Ma'am, can we move to the next slide quickly? Okay. So how are consultants and mentors contributing? Let's look at the role of consultants, mentors, coaches, right, and other service providers in the ecosystem. Many of them are the catalysts of innovation, right? They create a bridge between the what and the how, right? Many experienced entrepreneurs or startup founders share their experience in succeeding as well as failing. Now, this is very important, which becomes a reminder of two big learnings, right? One, it's okay to fail. We can get up from there and start up all over again. And two, the discipline, right? The never give up or other grit stories which determine the eventual success. So when the founders or people who've founded companies, they also share their learnings or their shortfalls. It's a huge opportunity for some of the startup or the entrepreneurs to learn from them. So that's the mentors or the catalysts kind of role that they play, right, in bridging this how or what as an idea to how it can actually be implemented or monetized. That's a role that they play. So yeah, so let's wind up this session now. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah, right. So here's the takeaway. A smart city is an urban area which uses digital technology to collect data, right? The three largest sources of spending associated with smart cities are typically in the visual surveillance, right? Public transit and outdoor lighting, right? They integrate information technology with connected devices and optimize services. And citizens create the city, right? That's very important. They're active participants in shaping the city, but means cities use technology, are adaptable to citizens' needs, and grow and change with their needs. Let's move to the next slide. The main components of a startup ecosystem are obviously the startups themselves, right? They are at the center. And on the other sides are the funders or investors, incubators, accelerators, and service providers, both public and private, as well as the processes, events, institutions, example, meetups and hackathons, right? Educational institutions and educators have a very critical role to play in enabling entrepreneurship. We discussed many of the elements earlier. They're an integral part of the startup ecosystem for a smart city. An educator can allow creative individuals who would otherwise not have become inventors or entrepreneurs to reach their potential, right? That's widening the pipeline. Creating an environment to encourage not just academic excellence, but entrepreneurial excellence is just as critical a part of an educational institution today. Right? The future integrating technology is to solve real world problems. And that's the concept from a smart city project as well. The government at the central level and at the state government level has its own role to play in fostering innovation and entrepreneurship. We talked about some of the schemes or different investments that the government is making in that area. The most important aspect is access to first level of funds to prove a POC, right? And there's a significant amount of investors and VCs who are, actively looking for different clear ideas which can actually be monetized. The second aspect is to create a culture of innovation in startups with clear policies, regulatory as well as ecology, from incubation centers, access to mentors, etc. There's a policy which will enable the innovation and support the entire ecology, which talks about the incubation centers and access to mentors, etc. The third aspect, encouraging women, backward communities, as well as underprivileged youth to contribute and have access. And there's a significant amount of investment the government is making in enabling that as well. The same toolkits to be made available to them, right? The private sector, consultants, mentors, and even the service providers, like today, digital marketing firms or private research firms, co-working space providers, are all part of this ecosystem for promoting this the startup ecosystem, right? Innovation can be a differentiator, and enabling our future generations to think innovation is a role most educators are playing very well, right? And kudos to each one of you for that, for the role that you're playing, fostering the entire ecosystem, right? And thank you. That's about what I had to share today. I think I'm on the dot, just about an hour. Yeah. Any?
I think, sir, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sir, thank you so much for your presentation on building a startup ecosystem in the smart city context. So you have some of the questions in the chat to be answered. I think the first question is from Jyoti. Can you specify some of the support we have under AICT to establish incubation center in the institution?
See, like I said, AICTE specifically, I don't have the pieces, but most educational institutions, I can get that shared separately under what all is stated under AICT. But today, most educational institutions are having, the innovation or the entrepreneurship development cells, right? And specific to that, whether there are any funds available for setting up incubation centers, that remains. I mean, I need to put that for educational institutions, but there are funds which are being put out for promoting incubation centers, right, for educational institutions, like I said, with Tamil Nadu and pieces. Whether it is being directed, how it is being directed, I can actually share that separately.
Yeah, thank you, sir. There's a next question from Janani Vijay Kumar. What are your thoughts on ethical considerations with regard to smart cities?
Right. So that's a good question. So when you talk about ethical considerations, the one of the key pieces, like I mentioned earlier, is that the problem and the solution, if it is coming from people who are local, who are part of the problem, right, who are facing the problem every day, then it is going to be an ethical consideration, right? The solution is going to be ethical. The problem is going to be real world, and therefore we are not talking about any other activities. Let's take, when recently we were talking about one thing in the smart city context, and we had this piece of surveillance, right? And while the concept or the primary use of surveillance is in the area of compliance, right, from a safety and security perspective, right? But there is increasing crime rates, and they are able to actually reduce that or catch people using the cameras at different strategic locations. So even if you take smart cities like, say, Bangalore, there are cameras all around, right? But it's a question of how it is actually being used, right? Contextually, it is for the development or for the benefit, for improving compliances. It is purely ethical there.
Okay, so is the last question that I pose in the interest of time. I'll merge two of the questions and I'll ask. The questions is from Dr. Anita and Pallavi. Can a group of some students can start a startup with their studies, and can you give some suggestions to non-technical institutions?
So let me talk about students, right? So there is, if you look at some of the data, I mean, I'm aware of Bangalore and Mumbai. most startup founders today, or the last two cohorts at least, the average age was, or the maximum age which I saw was about 23. Okay, so a significant amount of people were 17, 18, 19 as well. So can it be done? Yes, it can definitely be done. Is there anything which is restricting them? No. It's about the ecosystem. It's about their priority, whether they would want to first finish their academic tenure and then look at moving into employment, or if they want to straight away jump into employment without completing their academics. So logically, from a question perspective, can it be done? Yes, it can be done.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. I think you have given us an elaborative presentation. I'm sure our participants must have been benefited. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of St. Francis College, ACT, on behalf of the coordinators and all the participants, sir, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to you for being here and presenting to everybody about the building a startup ecosystem in the smart city context, and also telling us the role of educational institutions and the excellence that we can take it forward in moving to the smart city mobility. Thank you so much, sir. Please accept our gratitude on behalf of every one of us. Thank you so much for your presence.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you so much. So nice of you. And I'm sure the participant would have agreed that you have shared so much of insight and they'll be able to get along with it. Thank you so much again.
With the time, can we move
Yes,
to the next presentation, ma'am?
yes.
Pankaj, ma'am?
We can see that Isuru is already there online. So, Netra ma'am, you can continue.
Anusha, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am is here. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we have the next presenter here, Dr. Isuru, Assistant Professor in Business and Management, University of the West of Scotland, and he will be talking about driving innovation for sustainable growth. At the outset, sir, welcome to the 6 days FDP, ATAL FDP, organized by St. Francis College. So welcome at the outset on behalf of St. Francis College and everybody. Over to Anusha. Ma'am, please.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dr. Isuru Koswatte. It's a privilege to have you amongst us today. I'll just take 2 minutes to introduce you to our gathering. Dr. Isuru Koswatte is an assistant professor in business and management at University of West Scotland, specializing in organizational resilience, entrepreneurship, and business sustainability. With active international collaboration, he has completed his PhD at the age of 27 from the University of Manchester in 2020. Skilled in mixed method research and structural equation modeling and qualitative research, he contributes to the academic community as an external examiner of Northumbria University and University of Dundee. Beyond his academic pursuit, Dr. Koswatte holds leadership positions at University of West Scotland, serving as a deputy program leader of BA Honours Business and co-chair of the Staff Research Forum. He is also an adjunct senior research fellow at NSBM Green University in Sri Lanka and a member of National Centre for Resilience and the British Academy Early Career Research Network in Scotland. His teaching expertise encompasses various modules in business management, including business processes, multinational performances, organizations in society, and many more. We are extremely happy to have you amongst us today, sir, and I kindly request you to take over the session.
Thank you very much for that introduction, and welcome everyone. I can see that we've got quite a number of people here, and I was also listening into the previous presenter session, which is quite interesting. Thank you again, St. Francis College, and particularly Dr. Tiwari for inviting me for this session, and I'm really pleased to be here. So just to be clear, am I sharing the slides from my end, or is it being done from your end? Just to be clear.
I would request if you can do it from your end. It'll be easy to moving
Fantastic.
across.
Fantastic.
If you have any challenge, let us know. We'll be also able to do that from our side as well, Asiru. Let me know. You're able to do it from your end?
Yes, I think I can. Give me a second.
Yeah. So before you convene your session and start beginning and interacting with the participant, Dr. Isuru, I just wanted to quick announcement to all the participants. He is so nice of you because our sessions got rescheduled. And it was just one of my message. I just sent him to Dr. Isuru and he accepted so nicely. So thank you so much for accepting our invitation, sir. And I'm sure we are delightful to hear you today.
Anytime. Happy to help at all times. Folks, I hope you can see my slides.
Yes, we can see the slides. Yes, we can see the slides.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Right. Okay. So yeah. So when I mean, one thing I was quite interested in, again, as an FDP, I was quite fascinated to see the sort of range of ideas that were shared, obviously surrounding smart cities. And again, as somebody who comes from an academic background, I also have to maybe sort of mention that there's one thing I didn't mention. Although I'm an academic by profession, I'm also an entrepreneur back in Sri Lanka, although I've not added that to this section. So I thought it'll be quite nice to obviously give you a bit of a perspective on how things are happening, again, in Sri Lanka in particularly, because obviously from a South Asian perspective, I think that'll be quite interesting, especially for the Indian audience, to also see what kind of things are happening, but also give some more insights in a different perspective as an entrepreneur, how sort of the sort of innovations, especially in the sustainable growth side of things, are happening in that part of the world, because we are still sort of discussing more of the South Asian kind of developments are happening in that sense as well. So again, as I said, it's a very sort of hands-on kind of session. My slides are quite practical to understand, but if you have any questions at any time, I know the chat is open, so maybe you could put in the chat, but also feel free, if it's a really pressing question, you could always just pause and just ask. And obviously at the very end, we've got, I think, a Q&A session planned out as well. So I think that's the way we are going to run through the session. Right. So before we sort of start, I want to sort of ask you again. Now, I know that we hear this topic on development, growth, sustainability, and all of that. Now, have you, obviously, I'm sure a lot of you would have come across this term, sustainable economic growth. Does anyone want to sort of give an idea, or, I mean, feel free to drop in the chat what exactly sustainable growth means to you personally? Has anyone sort of come across this before? How do you think it's slightly different from any kind of economic growth? I mean, economic growth has been obviously one of the key indicators where a lot of countries are now being measured. We have things like the GDP, we have things like purchasing power, but how is sustainable development growth slightly different from that? Does anyone want to try? Okay, so Vadana is mentioning long-term growth that doesn't impact environment. Very good, Vadana. Yes. So that sort of pretty much summarizes. Does anyone else want to give it a try as well? Anyone wants to give it a go? Yeah. Dr. Lakshmi is saying sustainable growth related to SDGs which lead to good economic development. Correct. So pretty much in summary, yes, we are obviously looking at growth potential from the same sort of monetary perspectives, okay, whether it's to do with an economic development, but at the same time, not at the expense of obviously the surroundings and the environment, and also having a long-term focus. Because as we all know, we live in a world where our resources are inherently limited. And with the limited amount of resources, how can we really ensure not just that we are satisfied with whatever we are doing at the moment, but can we really go ahead and keep on enjoying and benefiting from these things, but not at the expense of future generations? Uh, Now, this is quite interesting because I remember still there was this simulation that we played. In fact, while I was doing my PhD at University of Manchester, my supervisors, we did this almost like a board game. I remember it's called a simulation, where it was about how we can develop some factories in a fictitious world that we have done. But and basically there were two options, and the two options was, obviously you can develop or create clean factories which are going to be more expensive, but you can also do we call it dirty factories, which are cheaper. So that was the sort of idea. And then it was very fascinating to see where some people were really only focused on themselves, and they went on to build some of those dirty factories. But the fun thing with that game was, the more you build those dirty factories, at a certain point in time, you end up getting into what we call a pollution state where everyone is then impacted. So the idea being, yes, if you are being selfish, you can maybe go ahead and work on your development processes, whether to improve your GDP, improve your development as a country. But if you're not really looking after the environment and protecting the people around you, whether it's the countries and that entire environment, the ecosystem could come back and have a quite a different and a difficult impact on your economic growth indicator. So that's the basic idea in that sense. So I'm happy to see that obviously we are on that sort of idea and on that page. So now, in this sort of regard, obviously, I'm quite interested to obviously bring you this perspective in where Sri Lanka is happening. So again, as you said, so we know what sustainable growth is, and urban growth. Obviously, we are living in a time where, especially South Asia, especially has been center of attention in many cases, and actually India has been at the forefront of it, where there has been obviously rapid growth, rapid development, and some of those sort of growth potentials have automatically been translated to Sri Lanka as a country as well. And the problem obviously Sri Lanka has in this regard is to how to obviously attract and bring some of the investment into the country, but at the same time, are you able to bring in and balance some of those sort of environmental hazards and potentials for pollution at the same time? Now, I'm sure all of you know that, especially Delhi and that part of the region has been quite severely impacted with the sort of consistent the fog, and we call it almost like the never ending sort of the pollution circle. And very recently Sri Lanka and Colombo, especially the capital, has also been impacted in this case, where the sort of air quality indexes have really been quite concerning. So we cannot really isolate ourselves and say, okay, maybe it's a problem of that part, but then anywhere in the region we are then impacted to this extent as well. So how do we balance this becomes quite keen. And balancing this is where I think the role of innovations and new thinking has to come into place, whether it's to do with smart solutions, whether it's to do with certain indicators being put in place, and also simply addressing some of those urban challenges where many countries do face, whether it's to do with congestion, pollution, and infrastructure gaps. So it's quite clear that that certain parts of Sri Lanka have really now started to understand that, in fact, we've gone beyond the state where it's simply about bringing in projects after projects just to have infrastructure in or other kind of sort of developments come in. But can we bring these in with a nice balance, with the right balance where the environmental standards are also now being maintained, because it has come to that stage where certain things have become a bit more critical. And one of the examples, obviously, we can discuss in terms of smart cities in the context of Sri Lanka, I want to highlight is what we call the port city. So port city is basically, for anyone who has not heard about it, you can almost call it a mini Singapore or a mini Hong Kong. In the concept of South Asia, where I think it's around a $15 to $16 billion investment, again initiated by China, again, which did raise certain controversies because it's part of the Belt and Road Initiative of China. And again, it's a topic up for another time, a debate up for another time, where certain people do believe that it's almost like a debt trap, where not only Sri Lanka, but again, other parts of Africa, and also some parts I think some parts of South Asia are being captured in a very strategic way due to its location and other benefits. But again, basic concept of port city is again to have investment, education. It's basically a city within a city is the concept that has been put toward. And since the topic that we are discussing today is on sort of more or less on the smart city concept, so I thought this was quite a nice addition for us to really understand what exactly is happening right now in the country. So the structure in which I want to sort of put this presentation today is, first of all, give you an idea of some of the things that are already existing in the context of Sri Lanka, and also at the same time then highlight what kind of things that are required to improve. And maybe you can see some of those sort of cross comparisons between what you've been hearing again from the previous presenters in the context of Bangalore and other parts, and also what's happening in the other parts of South Asia as well. So I think that will give us quite a nice mix of things. So as I said, obviously, this is almost the first of its kind for Sri Lanka, and also I think it's something quite new for South Asia as well. And again, it's a city where everything is being integrated, whether it's to do with the way obviously the payments are being done, the way the duty free is being handled, the way sort of transportation is handled. So everything is again interlinked, sort of centralized in that sense to again improve urban living. That's the whole idea behind this. And again, sort of one of the other concepts that also come into this equation is how do you use some of those natural resources. So obviously the building structures and the kind of infrastructure that is being built is purpose built in the sense built from the ground up to ensure some of those obviously using solar power, and also using some of the things like wind curtains, air curtains, so that those kind of environmental hazards, and again using maximum use of some of the natural resources at all times. But obviously, one of the biggest challenges with projects like this, again, Port City in Sri Lanka is to be built phase by phase, and I think the final phase is going to be done probably in the 2050s. Is again attracting investment, and attracting investment also becomes a bit more of a complicated issue, which I will highlight later on in the presentation. But that has been one of the biggest challenges, and also inherent challenges such as digital divide and also sort of other limitations come into the equation as well. But those things we will touch upon later stages. Now, one of the problems when you obviously develop this kind of a concept is that now there are certain cities in the world which are built from the ground up. Now, again, examples I would give are cities like Amsterdam and even London, where these cities, when they were planned from historic standpoints, these were well planned out cities. So, for example, things like the London Tube. If you come to London, you know that the London Tube has been there for a very long time, and that has actually given a clear solution for the transport problem, again, in a global city like London. Now, the problem we have in South Asia, in most cases, is that these are not cities that were planned to this extent. And when cities are not planned to this extent, and when new additions come in like this, so that we are about to change some of those sort of historic things, is that mobility and the transportation links have to be now thought out in a certain way. Because everything is not planned from the beginning, you have to first of all compensate for things that are already built, which are not integrated, but also now think about smart solutions for the newer infrastructure, the newer projects that are coming in, but also finding a nice balance between the two. So how do we integrate the old with the new kind of technologies? And the main idea behind this is again to improve, obviously, reducing congestion and improving emissions and things like that. But it also comes down to other problems. Now, a practical problem I can give you in Sri Lanka is again public transportation, and I think India, especially, is much more advanced in this regard, because in Sri Lanka, the public transportation system, although the British did develop a very comprehensive railroad network around the country. The problem is the standard of these services are quite poor. And again, it comes down to the fact that middle income earners and people who are able to uh, have disposable income find it a little underwhelming to use some of these public transportation services, because again the culture in that part of the world is that if you can afford, you would have your own vehicle, as opposed to taking public transportation, which is not as up to the limit. It's not as efficient, obviously it's not comfortable, so those kind of problems are always there. And this is why I think the country is now looking for other kind of services, especially use of electric buses, air conditioned services, and also very recently there are also talks to bring in a metro system. Now, I know this is already in function in India, but in Sri Lanka this is something that is still not up to that level. So those are kind of things I think there are a lot of discussions going on. So certain pilot projects are also running in this section, and I think that's where you have to have some sort of public-private partnerships coming into the equation, where obviously the entire burden is not being given on the government, but also at the same time, when you have the private sector coming into the equation, they are able to obviously improve some of those inefficiencies that you inherently see with the government and general public sector organizations. Right. So we discussed a few things. So first of all, obviously giving you an introduction into what kind of situation that is there, especially in Colombo with the port city idea, which is now going ahead, but at the same time, some of the practical problems that are going to come and hit into those systems. And another obvious problem is that I discussed this at the very beginning also, is sort of logistics and urban supply chains. Now, again, as much as we are looking for further improvements, and obviously things like those smart cities coming in, obviously now port city is going to attract, I think, in excess of 2 million people into that entire city. So if you're having 2 million people now coming in brand new into a smart city that is being built inside your capital, now that's going to create a lot of other requirements and services. So you need to look at how to improve deliveries, how to improve efficiencies in some of those services, and again, not to add into the bottlenecks which are already existing, whether it's to do with congestion, whether it's to do with other requirements for supply chain, etc. And I think this is where you have to also start thinking of using some of those newer technologies. I know especially things like I recently watched this video in China. I think it was in Shenzhen, where you can actually go into a kiosk and now place an order, and actually the drone would come and deliver the food. I know I know in most parts of the world we are trying this, but in China, I think it has now come to a stage where it is now used in a quite practical way. And the other thing Sri Lanka has for its advantage is that the location, and this is where I again mentioned at the very beginning, the investments coming into Sri Lanka are coming in also because of the importance of the strategic location, again, centrally located in the Indian Sea, and obviously that gives Sri Lanka a clear advantage in terms of connecting some of those important locations from the Middle East right towards Australia, that side of the belt as well, and also again connecting from South Asia towards Africa, and also that region from Southeast Asia as well. So how can you take some of these existing benefits as a country you have, but also then start thinking in a very innovative way to create some of those opportunities? One of the best examples and exponents of this are Dubai, the Dubai airport. Again, using some of those existing benefits, Singapore as a sort of a maritime hub. Again, Hong Kong has already done that. So again, I think Sri Lanka is also now trying to strategically working alongside partners from, again, India. I know for a fact that there are still talks. So I think Colombo Port to be working closely with, I think, some of the Indian investors coming in. I think part of the Colombo port is now also being operated by some of the Indian investors. So there are a lot of talks and discussions as to how you can bring in some of that investment, but at the same time, use and leverage some of those benefits the country has so that you can take use of some of those supply chain efficiencies in that sense. So also now, since we are sort of talking about this idea overall in terms of, first of all, looking at the smart city concept, but also now thinking of mobility and again, logistics. Now, we are also then having to start to think about what kind of ways in which we can bring in innovations into the country, and what kind of ways in which we can look at startups. Now, startups generally, if I was to give you some context, again, now this is me speaking mostly as a, let's say, an entrepreneur as opposed to an academic. Now, I don't know how much this is true in the context of India, but again, if you look at things like the sort of the cultural aspects when it comes to startups, I think we are embedded from our small days. At least that's what I've been told from small days, to look for something which is a bit more risk averse. So your parents, whether it's people around you, generally would tell you, you go and study, you try and get a job which is quite secure. And in a Sri Lankan context, I think it's mostly to do with government jobs, which are again quite secure for you. You are not at a risk of losing your job at any point in time, and that gives you again a fixed income, a secure job. And again, basically what that means is, according to a lot of people, you've got a secure future. I again use air quotes just to highlight that idea. And again, this is something that has been embedded quite strongly into that cultural system. So risk taking is always considered to be a sort of almost a no-go in that sense. But obviously, what we are trying to do now in this sort of idea is trying to see. But end of the day, if you look at some of the successful businesses, again, one of the examples I always use is again, if you look at Uber being the world's largest taxi service, it doesn't own a single taxi. Airbnb being one of the world's largest uh, hospitality chains, it doesn't own a single hotel room. So the basic idea is it's simply about sort of thinking outside the box, and sort of trying to apply some of those learnings and some of the things that we have, but also being creative and being able to take that drive. And as much as we try to encourage this from small days, it also has to do with a bit of a cultural change that is required from the household in itself. So what we try to say is that obviously ecosystems are a catalyst. So ecosystems are a foundation for some of those things that are required. So how do you then enroll, how do you bring in some of those technologies into the smart city concept, which can create jobs and economic growth? And again, if I was to go back into this example of Port City, one of the things that they have done quite successfully is to again work with partners, work with international partners, and also bring in some of the local businesses into this equation. So one of the things I can give you an example is that in the Port City there is a duty free section which is again run by World Duty Free, and again I think China Duty Free, which are two biggest duty free chains in the world. And what they've done is they've also encouraged Sri Lankan businesses, local businesses, to come into that section, work with the international partners, and see what kind of things that they can improve. So one thing is that the knowledge sharing is happening with international businesses, which are multinationals. At the same time, local businesses are also given a almost like a bit of a awareness, and also they are exposed to some of the challenges that global companies face at all times. So I think that's a good way in which sort of new businesses and startups are being encouraged. And so in a Sri Lankan concept, yes, we've got obviously Colombo and Kandy, which is again the historic city where there are certain developments coming in, especially agri and fintech mobility sectors have also been coming in, but also inherent challenges have been specialized, especially due to lack of capital and mentorship. Now, when you look at mentorship, that also comes down to fact that we don't really have a culture where there are a lot of entrepreneurs to look up for now. And in the context of India, I know that it's a different case because we've got a lot of successful businessmen who you can aspire and look into. But in Sri Lanka, we don't have that kind of a culture where people have entrepreneurs that they can really look up to. So that encourages again kids at school, people who are going into university, to look into those kind of jobs. And there's still a huge tendency for people to really look for more secure jobs, look for more 9 to 5 jobs, as opposed to sort of looking for that next new thing or that next big thing, going into a whether it's a business or whether it's coming down to a certain startup. Now, again, since we are obviously discussing this topic on trying to understand sort of ecosystems and changes, I think one of the things I found it quite interesting is also to do a bit of a small comparison between some of the strategies I have noticed in the concept of, I mean, in Bangalore and Colombo, because I think that's something I found it quite interesting. Now, Bangalore is generally, at least in our eyes, is obviously seen as almost like the Silicon Valley of South Asia, and in fact in Asia. So obviously, uh, inherently one of the advantages it has is that there is already a serious plan in place. There's already a lot of tech related infrastructure that is there in that kind of a environment. And obviously the master plan for 2031 again speaks volumes. But the problem in Sri Lanka is that we do have some, or at least in Colombo, there is a lot of focus that is being given to, again, looking at green initiatives, regenerative projects, but these are things which are still at infancy, I would say. They are still at a very basic level, not really being integrated into national policy as such. It's not as I would say as forward thinking as what we see in the concept in the context of Bangalore. So I think there's a lot of things that that could be learned from some of the success stories that you have over in India in that sense. And again, obviously, when it comes to mobility and transportation, again, Bangalore, again, as I said before, it already has a comprehensive, I would say, transportation system to a certain extent. But again, some of the problems are severe congestion. And again, those things would come down to other factors such as population and the sort of other population related issues in that sense. Now, in the concept of Colombo, again, we don't have the problem with congestion as much, because obviously in terms of population numbers, the real numbers, it's kind of different. But again, we are still at a problem where the transportation links are quite a struggle. Again, we have the concept of tuk-tuks, three-wheelers. I think there was an initiative a couple of years ago where the government at that time did try to introduce a new public transportation system to almost to incentivize people to use public transport, and obviously reduce the use of tuk-tuks or three-wheelers in the country, because of how challenging it is as in terms of operations. But because it's such a difficult task to do, to change things overnight, and obviously due to other political reasons surrounding these kind of big changes coming in, that didn't really go through. So those are kind of problems that we have faced at the moment. Again, in terms of energy and resource efficiency, again, Bangalore has already started obviously focusing on solar energy, again, waste to energy resources, again, using some of those renewable technologies. I think that has been, again, fueled because of the, I think, the technological advancements I think Bangalore has, as opposed to Colombo. Again, in the concept of Colombo, there are certain projects, there are certain initiatives, at least at the very initial stages, where things are still taking place. Again, I was involved in one of the projects. I will mention this in the next couple of slides, but we are at a very basic stage at the moment. So there's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of encouragement coming in terms of what is required to be done. Right. So now I think I have given you a bit of an introduction into where we come from and what we have done. So I have, first of all, I have given you, just to summarize what I have discussed so that we are still on the same page. Obviously, I've given you an idea of what a smart city means in the context of Sri Lanka with an example. Again, also discuss some of the inherent problems we have in terms of logistics and mobility. And then also mention the importance of creating a startup culture, or basically creating an ecosystem where startup cultures are given a significant priority because they are considered to be the key in terms of realizing opportunities, but also the key towards developing more of a sustainable economic growth policy and potential. So now let's dive a little bit into why we need to sort of focus on innovation, entrepreneurship. Now, this is something I think we all kind of understand. So again, entrepreneurship and innovation is always a key driver for economic growth and development, because in a simple or a very simplistic way that you can understand this is that through innovation and entrepreneurship, you create new opportunities, you create ideas, or you come up with ideas and solutions which maybe have not been done before to a certain extent, and that can create openings in the marketplace, that can create newer jobs towards and adding and contributing towards the economy, and that can directly fuel obviously the growth potentials of the country. And also it can create tools to addressing some of the socio-economic challenges. Again, Sri Lanka is a country which has gone through a tremendous difficult period. As you might have heard in the news, it's one of the first countries to go through an economic recession after the pandemic. And again, that situation is good enough for businesses and individuals to start thinking about how you can create new opportunities. Again, there are socio-economic problems which are quite common, where there's a huge amount of brain drain in the country. I think over 200,000 people who have educated have migrated in the past year, which is a big number in the context of Sri Lanka. So there is a clear problem. So how do existing businesses, how do existing individuals start thinking practically? And I think that's where you have to then sort of start thinking about the long term. How do you bring in some of the sustainability aspects into business, and then you can balance some of those growth potentials in that way. So so what do you mean by sort of sustainability growth then? I know we touched upon this. So again, you are creating new methods, ideas, products in terms of innovation. And the importance for that is, again, improving productivity and competitiveness. But also, because you are trying to do something sustainable, you are then trying to address some of the local and global challenges, whether it's to do with climate change, resource scarcity. I will discuss this with a better example in the next couple of slides. So hold on with me. And in the context of Sri Lanka, one of the things that is actually helping Sri Lanka is that it has so much of potential when it comes to some of those renewable energy sources. And that is a key message that I want to highlight. So one of the recent studies that I worked on was trying to understand what are the sort of potentials that we have as a country towards renewable energy. And one of the things that we clearly saw from this initial study that we did, it was almost like a scoping study where we were initially trying to understand where things are right now. Because as I said, from my comparison between Bangalore and Colombo, one of the things that we clearly saw is that we still don't have anything in place, although there are talks here and there, but it has not really come into more of an aligned national policy level thing. So we are still at the stage where information is all over the place. And again, with this study, what we try to do is, in fact, was we try to combine some of those findings that we had at the very initial stages, and then try to see where things are in Sri Lanka right now. So one of the things that we clearly saw, again, I don't want to discuss too much in terms of this, but I'll share the link for the paper, so that if you are interested, if you are somebody who's interested in sort of understanding how sustainability and, again, renewable energy and things on that regard, it'll be quite interesting. One of the things that we saw is that Sri Lanka clearly has a lot of renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and ocean wave, etc. But the key problem that we have in Sri Lanka is that there are no sort of aligned policies. Again, one thing is that there is a lack of dedicated institutes, although there are a couple of institutes. These institutes are not really working in sync. They are kind of changing. They are working in silos, working by themselves, and that means that you don't really see the big picture. So you work on little projects here and there, but you are not really contributing to some of those big problems. And again, at a policy level, one of the other problems we have is a bit of the political instability. So unfortunately, to Sri Lanka, I think this is common in South Asia, more or less, is where some of those national level policies are aligned with the political agendas of respective parties. So you have one government which might be running a certain project. Again, the best example was Port City, the example of the smart city, the first smart city in Sri Lanka. So this was initiated by one government in Sri Lanka, and once that government was out of power and a new government came in, the first thing that they did was to put that project on hold, because, again, there were several reasons for that. But again, with that, what happened was that investors who were putting in a lot of faith in this project suddenly started to feel at unease because, obviously, of the political turmoil. They started pulling out their investments out of the country, and that meant that the project could have been much further in advance as opposed to where it is now. So things did get delayed and those kind of issues. So those are the kind of things that we clearly saw. And also there was lack of investment, there's lack of urgency by many of the policymakers to take on some of those more pressing challenges and go forward. So I think those were some of the kind of things that we found through this initial idea. So that's a bit of that as well for you to just to get a picture of a few things. So what are we trying to discuss here? What are we trying to discuss is that we are trying to say that, yes, we require sort of innovation and entrepreneurship to drive us towards some of those sustainable policies. And sustainability on its whole can mean so many different things. But what can we do as entrepreneurs? What can we do as businesses to really capture some of those changes, some of those things? So entrepreneurship on its own is again creating and managing businesses to generate value. But when we put in the topic of sustainability growth or sustainability into this, is we are generating jobs, we are reducing unemployment, we are using more responsibility, and we are being responsible humans at the same time. So you would have heard this concept called triple bottom line, people, planet, profit. I think that is where the future lies. Again, now, as somebody who's also based in Scotland, one of the things I can see in this part of the world, in Europe especially, is that there is a huge potential for businesses if you are being a bit more responsible, and if you exactly show this to your customers that you are being a responsible business, that will bring and attract a lot of value to you as a business proposition as well. Now, the good thing is there are some significant growth in some of these startups in Sri Lanka, which have been very successful. And the good thing also is that these are businesses which are coming from different areas of life. Now, for example, things like Good Life X is what we call it's actually a startup which is actually supporting agriculture and ethical fashion. So they are basically almost like a middleman trying to add value to some of the businesses in that sense. EcoWave again is another business which is focusing on sustainable agriculture, trying to improve knowledge of people. Again, there's a lot of farming. Sri Lanka is a country which is predominantly based on agriculture, but again, a lot of farming is still done in a very traditional way. There's no technology that is being used to some of those sort of ideas. But also, one of the problems that we have is that especially farmers and these individuals don't understand how to be sustainable. Their only focus is on their harvest, their next crop. But we're trying to encourage these kind of people to look at the bigger picture in that sense. At Power, the third example is again basically building awareness. It's almost similar to a concept like Dragon's Den that you've seen the popular TV show. Where you have angel investors, but also you're connecting with social entrepreneurs and impact investors. You're trying to show other people that there are successful businesses which are doing which are making money at the same time being sustainable. So you're trying to encourage that way as well. Brandix is again another large scale manufacturer, which is again already has achieved net zero status, which means they have completely gone into renewable sources. And again, as a big manufacturer in the country, one of the largest in terms of job creation, also you can clearly see that even if you are big or small, it doesn't matter, that you can really get yourself involved. Luck Arcade, again, it's a business which is doing a gift and souvenir. And one of the things unique with this business is that they are working with micro businesses in Sri Lanka. And again, one of the things that they have done is that, as opposed to obviously selling goods that are being, let's say, uh, imported from places like China, where you could obviously make a bigger margin, they are working with exclusively local manufacturers who are based in Sri Lanka. First of all, they're trying to obviously encourage them to give them some skill development, upskilling, but at the same time, encourage them to use some of those eco-friendly production methods. So eco-friendly production in a very traditional setting can be very expensive, but what they do is they use that to add value into their products, and they sell almost not just a product, but an entire story. So in that sense, they could then pass that benefit on to the suppliers who are maybe taking some of those traditional methods more expensive, but at the same time, since it's sustainable, you can pass on some of that cost to the customer, and the customer themselves are also very much encouraged, uh, and they don't mind paying a higher price on the product because that product is using sustainability and it's actually benefiting directly the livelihoods of those individuals. So you can clearly see that entire circle of operations or the entire value chain is built around sustainability and giving back to directly back to the manufacturers, at the same time passing on that extra expense to the customer who's still willing to pay that, because it's that they feel they're doing something good by purchasing something that is responsible, as opposed to something that can harm the environment in that sense. So you clearly see that you can create a cycle where people are encouraged to do that at all times as well. So now, since we discussed some of these things, obviously, we can clearly see that there are successful businesses which are doing, which are already encouraging, which are engaging in some of these, addressing some of these problems. But what are the main challenges that we have in the context of Sri Lanka? And one of the problems we have as a country to develop more of these entrepreneurs who are going to do sustainability or who are going to engage in sustainability developed or based businesses is that there's limited funding for innovation and sustainable business growth. And again, as I said, as a business, as an entrepreneur back in Sri Lanka, one of the things that we have found challenging is that how do we capture the market? And that's where I also go back to that example. And I said it's mainly about how you try to brand yourself. Again, if you are trying to position yourself as a brand which is going to be more responsible, if you are going to be a brand which is going to take care of your people who are engaged with you as a business, that message has to be clearly passed on to your potential customer. And if that can be done, you can then create a business model which is going to be sustainable, because you are then able to price your products in a way where you're safeguarding not only your margins, but also you're taking care of your supplies and that entire supply chain. Now, one good example of this is also the fair trade concept. Now, you would have seen this with companies like Starbucks, which have the fair trade logo in their branding. And if you know what that means, is that basically they have obviously got the standards from the fair trade agency globally, where they have vouched and they have proven that their entire supply chain, whether it's to do with coffee farmers back in Brazil or in Argentina, and the farms and the people who are engaged in the business are given a very comfortable wage. They are not being exploited, and people who are engaged in that entire business cycle are running at a very comfortable level. No one is being exploited at any times. So when you have got those standards in place, what happens is that obviously you can then afford to price your products in a slightly more of a premium category, but at the same time, the consumers who are looking to buy the product wouldn't mind spending that, because again, as a consumer, although you are spending more, you do feel like you are playing or you're playing a part in society to take care of society, and you feel good about yourself. So it's simply about trying to capture that message very clearly. Another key problem that we have, again, I think this is universal. This is universal to maybe in India as well, is that the fact that we have a lot of bureaucracy. Regulation is still at a very cumbersome level, where things are very difficult to get through to. And again, the problem being that, again, politics being mixed with some of the more policy level things can be a bit of a challenge for potential businesses and potential investors to come into the country. And that's something that needs to be addressed more at a national level. But again, obviously building awareness, discussing some of those challenges and addressing some of those challenges in this way could be a way in which policymakers could potentially hear some of those opinions coming through. And the other problem, again, we have is infrastructure gaps. So again, as I said, there are certain projects in place like the port city, which is ideal. But again, on a national level, we are still at a stage where there is still lack of development in terms of connectivity in certain parts of the world. Again, rural Sri Lanka, again, Sri Lanka is a country which still has quite a high amount of disparity, very similar to India in that sense. And this is where we need to start connecting some of those supply chains, some of those businesses which are not really connected back to the central system in place. So I think that's where the digital transformation needs to come into place. For example, I know in India you already have mobile payments, sort of contactless payments, but in Sri Lanka it's still at that stage where those are even not addressed to that level. So I think that is somewhere we do require a significant amount of investment. At the same time, a bit of that mindset change, which is what I've mentioned. And the final point, because you still have to address at different levels. One thing is you start off at the household level, at your home. You need to start building awareness as parents in that sense, but also from schools, and more importantly, when you have sort of students or university level understandings, you have to start thinking about how they could be encouraged in that sense as well. So how do you give your students, again, for example, we teach entrepreneurship in I teach in entrepreneurship both in the UK and also in Sri Lanka. One of the things that I see clearly is that we have a lot of people who are extremely smart in their subject material, but they do lack that street smartness. They do lack that ability to translate some of those learnings into actual application, because that culture is still not as prevalent in South Asia as opposed to some parts of Europe. So how do we really encourage that kind of messaging and get people, especially young people, on board to a certain extent as well? So again, opportunities for growth would be, again, how do we start strengthening the ecosystem? How do we start looking at startups? How do we start looking at exactly businesses which have been successful in that scale? Again, as I mentioned before, public-private partnerships, but also trying to access some of the global markets. Now, one of the things that you can also start doing is, again, from a Sri Lankan perspective, again, look at businesses, look at ways in which you can encourage things which are doing well. Now, Ceylon tea, you would have heard, tea is very popular from Sri Lanka across the world. There is cinnamon. Sri Lanka is the largest cinnamon manufacturer in the world. So you look at opportunities, how you can already capitalize on the strength you have as a branding, as a nation. Again, as an entrepreneur in Sri Lanka, where I'm involved in the tourism industry, one of the things that we do is, obviously, we do sell things like Ceylon tea and other things, but also our largest clientele is from India. So we try to obviously sell this message in terms of getting through to them in a way where we try to encourage them, show what is available, and then communicate that very clearly at all times. But at the same time, you also require some value addition. How do you develop people? What are the things that people require for them to start thinking innovatively? What do people require to start thinking and come up with new ideas? And that's where I think the university level, I think education comes into place. I would also like to discuss one example that I'm also engaged in. So I worked as a visiting professor at NSBM Green University. So it's one of the first green universities in South Asia. And one of the things that I do is that I'm engaged with this young entrepreneur startup. So it's, again, more of a student-led body inside the university. It's not an academic body, but it's not a club in that sense. So it's almost in between. But we do bring in active sort of investors. We bring in startup success stories. We bring in individuals who are in that process, get them to sort of work with our students. And one of the things we do is that we also get these people involved in the development of our curricula. So every year when we have our programs to a certain extent being revalidated, we do have 3 or 4 members who are entrepreneurs themselves from different age groups, from different businesses, who are going to come in to our validation process, and they work very closely with our academic team to see what are the best kind of topics to discuss, what are the kind of case studies that we're going to discuss, so that not only we are covering those academic kind of things when it comes to the learning access, but then also bring in those active examples from local examples, mostly because one of the things that I have learned as a student also is that we tend to discuss international examples at all times. We talk about sorry, if you talk about big companies, we look at, we look at Apple, we look at companies like Samsung, but why don't we look at examples that are homegrown? Again, you have stories like Reliance these days. You have so many local examples that you can look at, businesses which have been successful. So why don't we sort of localize our learning mechanism, that we can start looking at people who have been successful locally and streamline some of those learning mechanisms, so that that encourages people to relate to, and people are able to really connect with some of those examples much more easily. Right. So since we are heading to this way, I hope we are still okay. I know I didn't ask anyone of you whether you are still on the same page. Just to check, are we all good so far, guys?
Yes, I indeed, Dr. Isuru. It's excellent actually. So I've been looking into the chat, and some of the questions are already there. I think Karthik sir, you will be Dr. Isuru. You are ready to take the Q
So,
and A, or
yeah,
we
I've
will.
got two more slides. Two more slides. I just wanted to have a
Sure,
quick stop
sure,
in the middle.
please.
Just okay. Thanks.
Yes,
Thanks.
sure, please continue.
Fantastic. Thank you. So yeah, coming back to that. So as I said, that's an requirement. So education and training, that's where I strongly believe we can really, I think the impact factor for encouraging entrepreneurship would be to try to integrate some of those key messages to the curricula and try and see whether we could really bring in those individuals into the actual development process of this. Because again, that's where that transformation happens from when you come from school to the university. You start getting exposed to a different environment. One thing is that you develop as an individual yourself, but then also by putting in some of those new thinkings, looking at people who are being successful, especially at a young age, that would really drive your mindset to a change in that sense. And also obviously other things would be more of a larger scale things would be to invest in innovation hubs and also encourage people to do collaborative research projects. Again, when it comes to collaborative research projects, that's one thing I also encourage, is if you can get involved in some of those international projects. Again, one thing I do is I work with some of those individuals, especially students from different parts of the world, trying to see whether we can foster that kind of a culture as we go along. Right. So again, the key takeaways, so I hope that's basically what I want to cover. So innovation is central to growth development. And again, Sri Lanka, from an example from this, I wanted to mention is that there's so much untapped potential. And I think why I wanted to bring Sri Lanka so strongly is that because we are talking about South Asia, it's not an isolated situation. Again, South Asia being one of the fastest growing regions in the world, you will have each individual country playing a huge responsibility in ensuring that all of us are aligned. So, firstly, as a country, if you are aligned, you can then obviously contribute to that sort of a regional development, and then that collaboration could obviously develop and foster a more sound development. So, thank you very much, guys. And yes, I would now like to, and this is my LinkedIn, by the way. So, if there's anything that you'd like to get in touch with me, please do feel free. And yeah, I'll hand it over to Dr. Pankaj and the team.
Yeah.
Key
Sure.
questions.
Isru, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
loud and clear. Yes.
Yes, Dr. Isru, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation and letting the audience know uh, innovation can propel sustainable development, especially in the urban areas. That's a message that we could draw. And thank you so much for your presentation. There are a few questions, Dr. Isru,
Sure.
that we'd like to read out for you so that you can answer. There's a first question from Ms. Subulakshmi. Can you give suggestion how to overcome the cultural shock of people in accepting smart city projects? Because I think it's as per her, this she has mentioned, policies are good, but they face a lot of difficulties in implementation. What's your thought on this?
Yeah, I think an excellent question. I think one of the things that we can do is, first of all, I think why a lot of people get discouraged with this concept is because of policy, because people feel that policy, again, bureaucracy, are difficult to change, and that automatically puts people into this mindset that, okay, all this talk is great, but because of these problems, we cannot change. But I think the problem, I think it's an issue where people who are bringing these concepts need to start thinking that you have to talk to people so that they're able to relate to things in layman's terms. So if you're bringing in the concept of smart city or any concept rather, you would first try to understand where people come from. So people have inherent fears of change because of the lack of knowledge and as also lack of risk that it possesses in terms of change bringing coming into the equation. One of the examples I can give is again in the line of business that that we do, that with suppliers that we work, we were trying to integrate some of their manufacturing into our almost like a SAP system and intranet system. And these are small local manufacturers. And one of the things that they initially said was they were completely in shock and they were completely not happy about the process. But then we realized it was simply about lack of awareness, and it was simply about speaking to them and trying to understand their perspective. So I think you have to leave policy to the policymakers. That's a different equation, but it's simply about trying to break things down into changes which can be made at different levels. So as individuals, as a group, as a team, what kind of changes that you can do which will actually mean something, as opposed to thinking of that entire change process in one go. So try to break things down into smaller processes, workable goals, I think would be the way forward, in my opinion.
So you have one more question. As agri-tech firms are facing issue in convincing farmers to implement technologies in their field, according to you, what would be the best strategy to convey the information to them?
Yeah, I think again, when it comes to agri level things, it's also down to the fact that you break things down into the level they understand. One of the problems you have to address is that, first of all, giving them a fixed uh, income source, because one of the problems they have is that they complain all the time. Again, in the context of Sri Lanka, we had a president who had to flee the country. Actually, it came down to the fact that he made this huge blunder with an agriculture policy. So it's basically about you giving them a fixed income, first of all, ensuring that their livelihood is safe. And then on top of that, you then try to implement some of those changes at stage by stage level, more like pilot projects. So as opposed to trying to change or bringing in some of those sort of technologies overnight, I think would be the way forward, especially given the fact that they do lack the awareness at significant. There's a huge gap between what could be done, but also what kind of information is being communicated right down to the farmer. So there are so many different levels you have to cross. So you have to make sure that gap is reduced, but at the same time ensure that their livelihoods are safe, because we're talking about people who are earning a daily earning and they cannot really compromise on that at any cost, in my opinion.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Isru. That was wonderful presentation from you for the last 1 hour. I think very much sure audience must have learned a lot from your inciting sessions. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of you all, on behalf of the St. Francis College and Sir, thank you so much for your time and sharing all the insights with all our participants. I'm very sure, again, I'm telling audience must have been definitely benefited from the session and hope India also will move towards the sustainable development goals by 2030. Thank you so much for your session, sir.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Isru. I'm really delightful and very, very much complimenting to you. Thank you so much for your time and effort.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye now.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ma'am, do we have Dr. Ashok, sir, online?
Yeah, I think I saw him. He joined.
Ashok, sir,
Ashok, sir.
can we hear from you?
I can see his joined. Dr. A.G. Matani. I think he's there already.
Yes. Meantime, if we can involve the audience, the reflections if they can, so that Ashok sir will be there soon. I think he's been assigned with the host. Dr. Ashok sir, can you hear us, please?
Yes, I am here.
Yeah. Mansur is here. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, good evening. I think in respect of time, considering the time factor as well, we immediately move on to the next session by Dr. Ashok Matani, Professor, Mechanical Engineering Department, Government College of Engineering, Jalgaon, Maharashtra. He's a retired professor and he is with us today to speak on the topic Smart Mobility Solutions for Urban Efficiency. Anusha ma'am, can we have your presence so that you can read out the profile of Dr. Ashok sir?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone present here. Today we have Dr. Ashok G. Matani. He's a retired professor of mechanical engineering from Government College of Engineering, Geelong. With a PhD in mechanical engineering, he boasts a total of 33 years of experience in academia, research, administration, and industry. His expertise lies in energy, productivity, industrial engineering, environment, IoT applications, and management. Dr. Matani has a strong publication records with over 100 plus papers published in various reputed journals. He has also delivered 60 keynote addresses and invited talks at conference, more than 100 plus expert lectures at various training programs. Dr. Matani's contributions to the field of engineering are further highlighted by his 2 patents and his guidance of 3 PhD scholars who have been awarded doctoral degree. He has also been recognized for his outstanding research with 11 Best Paper Awards at conferences and seminars. Dr. Matani's dedication to education and research is evident in his extensive experience and achievements. We are extremely happy to have you amongst us today, sir. I kindly request you to take over the session.
Okay. Thanks for kind introduction.
नमस्कार सर।
नमस्ते मैडम।
आप शेयर करेंगे और हम करें
हाँ
आपका
मैं
पीपीटी?
नहीं मैं
Will
कर
you
रहा
be
हूँ।
able to do it?
Yes, yes, yes. Now it is seen to you on the screen. PPT.
Yes. Sir, it is unshared. Kindly share it
Okay.
again.
Now it is.
Yes, we can see that, sir. I think you're good to go. Please put it in the slideshow mode.
Okay. Now this you are able to see this,
Yes, we can
Yes,
see.
sir.
and this size will you be able to read, or should I enlarge?
You're comfortable like this? I think we can take it up, sir. We can go ahead.
Okay, okay. Thanks. My topic for discussion here is smart mobility solutions for urban efficiency, in which some of the topics which we will be including, in which public transport innovation, shared mobility, electric vehicles, autonomous transport, smart traffic management systems. Now, this what is meant by transport innovation? This refers to the advancements and improvements in methods and means of moving people and goods from one place to another. And smart traffic management system, it is having an integrated smart solution or traffic management systems which provide organized integrated approach to minimizing congestion and improving safety on city streets through connected technology. Now we are finding that metro cities, particularly Delhi and Bangalore, they are so traffic congestion is there, and suppose you want to catch or take any flight, the minimum 2 hours before arriving airport from your place, you have to spend 2 hours in traffic. Means imagine what is the situation in metro cities. Whereas in a metro train, if you take that within 20-25 minutes, you can take that. But if you are on road, it is taking minimum 2 hours. Now, increased demand for traffic, smart traffic management systems. As per this PR News Wire expects, means this is the agency which is doing surveys and making some records and reports. This expects this intelligent traffic management system market is to grow, means at 10.1% of the compounded average growth rate. Because of this, we have, they have published also some guidelines that there are more than smart 250 smart city projects globally, and here we are finding how it is there, and all these are connected with in this your signals are connected with satellites also, sensors are connected with satellites also in smart city. This smart traffic management system enables safe transportation. And this even Symmetry Electronic Supplier Digit International defines a smart traffic system as technology solutions that municipalities can integrate into their traffic cabinets and intersections today for fast, cost-effective improvements in safety and traffic on their city streets. Because managing this city means now in every city, in every town, the traffic is increasing. Two-wheelers, four-wheelers are there, cars are there, but the time is yet not that much means implemented, or these technology are the solutions which we are expecting कि we should have minimum waiting time on signals. Still that is the problem is there, and hence we are losing or burning this unused petrol and diesel on is means waiting time for these signals. And here we can this smart city concept or smart signals traffic sensors, they can come to rescue in that, and in which even in some cities in America and other advanced countries, ki, from one signal to another signal on the same road, the time is so scheduled कि you will be passing through entire with green signal. Once you cross that, and this time is estimated, suppose from 2 kilometers distance, at this 2 minutes is there, then within 2 minutes you will be getting that green signal. Means you need not wait to stop there or wait for this means green signal. Means they have set that signal timing in that way. Here, this RFID tags are also used. Automatic identifier data collection tags are used. Temperature sensors are there. Air quality sensors are there. This air quality sensor nowadays in Delhi, the last week this air quality index AQ index has gone more than 450, and now today, actually, Honorable High Court of Delhi, they have called ministers of commissioners of 5 states have on solution on this air quality. Tomorrow on 5th December, they are having meeting and with all 5 state secretaries to have means a feasible solution on how this can be AQ index can be minimized, because this is the major culprit. Bad air quality was the main culprit for COVID patients, and majority of the Delhiites, those who have died during COVID, they were maximum of one city, that was Delhi, because of this traffic, because of this air quality was so worst, and this COVID, the deaths were because of this lungs infection, and this caused this because of air pollution. Now here, these connected traffic light systems, we are using this with the help of this AI and machine learning processes to enable computer vision, optical character OCR, and reinforcement learning. Here, these are these trends of the new urban mobility. Here we are finding with this we are seeing that now Uber effect is there, then ride sharing is there, car sharing is there, easy payment is there, even banning diesel cars, then electric cars and innovative apps, and autonomous vehicles are there. Even now in some cities, at least in Thane and Bangalore, these cab two-wheelers now sharing, in which you need not, those who want to reach earlier and don't pay taxi charges, they can ride or share that. Now two-wheeler taxis just like motorcycle, so he will be riding, that passenger will be riding on the rear seat and driver will be taking that driving seat. And now these are, at least in Thane and Bangalore, these are working two-wheelers, just like Uber concept we are having in car. These two-wheelers are in working in at present today. Means this is also a good signal. Those who are from outside and they are not possessing any vehicle in other particular city, they can take that ride and reach within the shortest time. These are the example of Portland, Oregon smart traffic solution, in which these transit signal priorities here. This bus sends location data to the cloud and regional partners network, and network sends estimated time on arrival. Just like I was telling you, it is functioning in America in majority of the cities. Because for you are, if you are traveling from this place to this place, if suppose it takes 2 minutes, during these 2 minutes, this red signal will be there. As soon as it reaches the signal point, it will be given green signal. Means they are making this signal so that no any waiting time is there. There are 5 benefits of a smart traffic management system, in which predictive insights are there, enhanced safety is there, then cost reduction, improved emergency response, and minimize emissions. This is the main criteria where we have to consider quality of life in metros. This is the main culprit in air pollution, means emissions. Even these four-wheelers, two-wheelers are gasoline engines. They are emitting these fumes, CO2, and NOx, and these are causing the health effect on these those who are waiting on the signals, or even when traveling on the roads. So here, this is this we can reduce that CO2 emissions to 205 million metric tons by 2027. Then different 5 current trends in transport are there at present. These include network effect, innovation in transport management system, time slot management, application, autonomous trucks, and future of last mile deliveries. Now, new types of transportations are coming now: e-hailing rides or car sharing scheme, electrical vehicles. Nowadays, electrical vehicles, even electrical car is possessed by Honorable Shri Nitin Gadkari sir, who is a Minister of Surface Transport. He is having even electric buses are implemented in now in Mumbai and Delhi. They are working, even base buses they have replaced all with electrical vehicles, zero pollution buses. Even now, the new development, Indian Railways is launching electric this hydrogen car. Now this new concept are coming, in which this hydrogen car, hydrogen cars are there, hydrogen bus is there. Now hydrogen train is launched between in Haryana state, Jind and Sonipat. So that developments are coming within 10-15 days. This train will be running. It will be costing, of course, 80 crore rupees. But the new development ki we are having these facilities. Even uh, now, ammonia is also seen as the renewable fuel in coming years. Some trials in advanced countries are going on in which ammonia will be used as the fuel. Now, newest form here with these maglev trains we have seen, these are working in Japan and China. Flying taxis in Germany, UK, they are working. Driverless cars, they are working in UK and Germany. Delivery drones are also nowadays used because drones in India have got its idea during COVID. Now these drones are used for pharmaceutical delivery and other items. Then underground roads, nowadays the roads are also made underground. Metro, these bullet trains are also working. Mumbai and Ahmedabad and Hyperloop, it is also working. So these are the future transporters hope to tackle these greenhouse emissions, then preventable fatalities, road congestion, security, then poverty, and what could I'm telling here these are maglev trains. We have seen this in these are working. Then flying taxis also. These are just like flying taxis. These pictures of these flying taxis. Of course, in India it is not there, but this is restricted because of this. Not the our passengers or our citizens have got that traffic sense because this will be working so that no any accident should be there. And of course, within 2 years, 1 year, this will be launched in India also. But they are successfully working. Even driverless cars are also working. Self-driving cars, what we call that. Then delivery drones are also there. These drones are even now, even some food items are now delivered by these drones at present in India. This we are seeing here, delivery drones are there. Even underground roads, even Mr. Elon Musk, who is also having a Tesla car company of electric vehicles in America, and he is thinking on underground roads also. These are the undergrounds. Even in Mumbai also, we are having this type of concept at present. They are working. Now Hyperloop is also there, in which we are finding this is encapsulated vehicle in which this transportation is there. This is the Apple transportation technologies. Now, this why is transportation? Because human challenges and advances in technology has forced this innovations, and moreover, because of overcrowding, even everybody wants he or she should have his individual car or individual vehicle, two wheeler or four wheeler. But government is also working to have share vehicles, uh, sharing car or share bus or share two wheelers. Any of this will be coming. Then climate change, it is one of the factor, and wealth inequality, because all cannot purchase these four wheelers, but they are making this, and new developments are now coming. Electrical vehicles are coming now. Even hydrogen car is now coming. Of course, the initial cost of the hydrogen car is somewhat more, but as this production will go, its popularization will increase, then definitely its cost will be coming down. The future of transportation hopes to have lesser greenhouse gas emission. That is the main culprit, means CO2 emissions. Every country head means they are pledging at a Paris Agreement ki they will be reducing CO2 emissions, but up till now, not significant improvement in reduction is done at present. Then secure technological advancements provide access for the disadvantage, then increase the travel speed also. People want to travel with means minimum traveling time or at the maximum speed, but without having any accident or any injury. Then reduce the road congestion. Of course, this should be traffic should be smooth and no any means accidents or any, and this curb the fatalities means no any accidents or fatal accidents or human life is lost. These are these priorities where, means these are the six priorities where future transportation hopes to accomplish. Then innovative technologies that are enhancing public transport efficiency, that is IoT sensors and telematics. Nowadays we are using these sensors. Even this in Sweden, experts are studying how these sensors can be used to monitor air pollution in real time to help reduce emissions. Even these sensors we are used in by traffic RTO, traffic police. If anybody is crossing these signals or over speeding on express highways, those are the speed limits are there on some of the express highway and express highways. Suppose any vehicle is crossing that limit, and because of the sensors they got pictures, and automatically this penalty or challan is made on a mobile. And in Singapore, in Dubai, the rules is that if you are making this for first time, it is permitted. If you are making this intentional third time, your license is seized. You will not be able to drive the vehicle in Singapore and Dubai. Then electronic logging devices are also used. Then AI-enabled predictive analytic maintenance is there. Then digital twins are also used. Then blockchain is also here used. Then mobility as a service. These apps are on-demand service that integrates various modes of public transport, trams, buses, subway into one platform. This enables travelers to plan and pay per trip on single digital app rather than buy tickets for each mode transport. These solutions also leverage technology to identify ideal routes, cutting down travel time and increase the efficiency of services. Now, these countries like Finland, Japan, China, and UK, they have piloted these early versions of mass, each with unique features. In Beijing, travelers are rewarded when they select greener modes of transport. They are means encouraged in that. Nowadays, electric vehicles. Now, this vehicle, even government of India have made one resolution and one circular. Ki from 2025, gasoline-based vehicles production will be stopped by automobile manufacturers, two wheelers, three wheelers, four wheelers, and our heavy vehicle trucks, heavy vehicles. And these will be working on this renewable fuels, green fuels, what we call this. Some CNG will be there. Then electric cars are also there. Hydrogen is now emerging as the new fuel. Even ammonia is works on ammonia is going on in advanced countries, in which ammonia will be used as the green fuel. So these now government of India have made this gasoline powered vehicles, means those who are working on diesel and petrol. These will be stopped. Manufacturing will be stopped from next year. It is compulsory for these automobile manufacturers to manufacture these their vehicles on renewable fuels or green fuels. These autonomous vehicles are also this. Scotland piloted the world's first autonomous bus service on route between Fife and Edinburgh. Then bus rapid transport. This is even working in Pune. I have seen this. BRT. One separate road or lane is meant for this BRT from Hinjewadi to Shivajinagar side. These innovative technologies that enhance public transport efficiency, that is, robotic systems are in use. Then public transport is one of these industries that is benefiting from this. Even now, transportation robotics are also used, in which now robots are used for driving the vehicles in public transportation. New, of course, it is new phenomena. These advances are such extent that modern public transportation would be undergone without robotic systems, and future would reinforce this. Now, these self-driving vehicles are also this new concept. Of course, in India, it will be somewhat late. Introduction of this will be 2 years, 3 years late, but these are working successfully in UK, Germany. These are working driverless cars or driverless taxis. Then robo buses. Okay, this is fully autonomous bus with no steering wheel, accelerator, or brakes, and is designed for open metropolitan roadways. This provides automated driving without human involvement, enabling more effective method of transportation with enhanced safety to complement. This is new in our nations, and Tempier, this new development, it is successfully implemented in Tempier, Finland. Even in 2017, German city of Bad Bad began testing these autonomous buses. This future outlook will be to self-driving vehicles currently need some human intervention, but there is still day when it is not required. Now, which country has the best traffic management? Netherlands, according to the methodology. Like, of course, this is the result of one study which have been published, research, and these research reports indicates that Netherlands is the best traffic management system, And here imagine what is this is main, this is how we imagine or we consider that key, which is it is only 3.98 traffic deaths per 1 lakh people. In, of course, this was 5 years back data. Means only 3.98 traffic deaths, means nearly 4 persons died per lakh. It is very rarest, means very less as considering this road traffic deaths because of these road accidents. Of course, these road accidents are because of either the mechanical fault, the problem of this vehicle, or majority of the problem is the driver habit, means behavioral part of the drivers. Because the drivers either they might be fatigue, means tired because of overworking, a number of, it means more number of driving the vehicles, and because they will not be concentrating on these, or because of the liquor or a drug addict, alcoholic addict. Now, rethinking urban transport, how cities are integrating into public transport. Now, according to UN, roughly 60% of the world's population will be living in urban areas. Now, we are finding the traffic or these people from rural areas, they are shifting to urban areas in almost all countries. And hence, for this, we have to make that provision of this safe transportation, clean transportation. And that is the challenge for these metro cities and municipal corporation areas. So here, this private sector is playing one key role in enhancing that mobility as a service offers. Even these are the examples in which bike sharing, I was telling you. This bike sharing, even in Thane and Bangalore, it is working. That is that one company, that is OFA. Then car sharing service, that is Zipcar. They, of course, this is the advanced countries. But in India, we are having this Uber and Ola. They are working on this in India also. Then free floating scooter sharing, that is city scoot, peer-to-peer car sharing services, driving and ride sharing services. These are names of companies in bracket, and on-demand dramatically priced taxi, that is Uber. Now, municipalities are trying to make use of all these emerging innovations in private sector to solve the urban transport puzzle and improve the provision of public transport. Now, this vacancy, it is the research agency, are they are publishing their reports. It estimates that by next say, 6 years, 1 in 10 cars will be used for car sharing. Means now people will be shifting for car sharing. Now, this IoT in public transportation is, and how it is transforming. These IoT applications are used, sensors are used, communication devices, data analytics, and infrastructure to improve the effectiveness and safety and convenience. This enables transportation to provide optimized route planning and scheduling, enhance the passenger experience. Now, these next generation transit technology include delivery drones, augmented reality interface, digital signage, AI enhanced devices, traffic management, road condition sensors, smart infrastructure solutions. Now, of course, there are some challenges to this. This is related with data security and privacy concerns. Suppose this is working on a cloud-based system, then chances of this data might be leaked. Then interoperability issues, as cost of implementation, regulatory or legal barriers are there. Some of these challenges, but these challenges are not that much. These can be controlled. Now here, top 10 IoT applications in transportation applications are there. We can go one by one. That is real-time vehicle tracking. Means with the help of IoT sensors and GPS, this enables real-time tracking of bus, train, and other transit vehicles. Even we are using those who are traveling by trains. We are having that train apps in which we can check throughout India. At least in India, I have seen on Indian Railways, any train which are viewing, just put that on that app, and this train's location is there, and which place it is there, and from which from where we are boarding, and how much time it will take, so that we can start from that time, according to that time. Otherwise, we have to wait. Previously, we had to wait at platforms. This was causing means unpleasant journey for travelers. But now these have made, this GPS technology has made now real time tracking of buses, trains is there. Then predictive maintenance is also there. Then smart ticketing and fare collection. This enabled IT enabled ticket system streamline the fare collection process by allowing person to pay their fares using contactless smart cards, mobile apps, or wearables. Then passenger counting and occupancy monitoring. Here we can read that, or this the sensors count that, how many numbers of passengers are in the traveled, and how much occupancy is there, so that in from next stop we can accommodate other passengers also. Then environmental monitoring, because of this IoT sensors measure air quality, temperature, humidity, and noise levels. Because noise levels are also now measured with the help of these sensors. Even RTO is giving online means penalty or chalan in case we are fuming more exhaust pollutions, NOx and CO2 and CO. So these sensors they track that, and automatically it is this chalan is made on our, and this chalan means it is the amount is deducted from our bank account. We have no any excuse for that. So this is so efficient and effective strategy. This data helps operators identify pollution hotspots, assess the transportation environment impact, and implement measures to improve quality and passenger comforts. The smart infrastructure is also there. Emergency response system in case any vehicles are such as in accidents or medical incidents or security threats are there. So any person is hijacking any anti-terrorist or anti-social elements, they are hijacking the bus, and in that time this can be used emergency response systems. We are using that. Then customer feedback and satisfaction surveys, these enabled feedbacks provide, our apps provide, okay, what is the problem with that particular operator, bus operator, and how it can be reduced. Then dynamic route optimization, here we can have real-time traffic, weather, and just like we are even we are using now in Google also at present, dynamic route optimization. Suppose you are entering in new city or Delhi or Bangalore, you are not knowing the roads, where it is location. Just you put in Google map in location. From this place you want to go there, and Google will give you the shortest possible passages and routes. From this route, if you go, it will take this time, and this traffic congestion is there, and within how much time you will be arriving that. And suppose you are you want to catch or take any flight. Take example of Bangalore. These during Diwali vacation, these taxi operators in Bangalore, they are charging rupees 5,000 rupees for 40 kilometers distance. Imagine the flight charges is 5 to 6,000 and taxi charges is 5,000 for 50 kilometers. Whereas that 1,000 kilometer flight tariff, air freight is also 5 to 6,000, and these taxi charges they are charging because you want to catch that flight, otherwise you'll be losing that. Means this is the means, of course we should not advocate for these type of taxi operators, but anyhow those who are they have to catch that flight or for you to take the alternative means there. And these taxi operators they are means just like blackmailing us, the passengers, and they are taking they are knowing what the pulse of this and how much he is means in emergency, and they are charging that. So here this dynamic route optimization helps us in that. Then energy management and sustainability, these IoT sensors can monitor energy consumption and carbon emissions to transit vehicles and infrastructures. This, so here this new what will be the next generation transit technologies. Just like this will be driverless cars and flying taxis. Is of course they are in some selected places, 2 or 3 countries they are working on this, but definitely this will be coming in that. Even drones are now coming. Now even delivery drones for last minute delivery and intercity transport. Now these drones will be used in just like in military they are used for means rescue operations and for this defense personnel. So if these delivery drones are used for commercial purpose for city traffic, then definitely it will be new concept in that. Of course, this will be slightly cost, but this time will be very less. Or in case of emergency, this will be used. So these are even this. They are already being used by Amazon Prime Air and Jeepline, the world's largest autonomous delivery system. Drones are used. Then mobility as a service, these platforms integrate various transportation options. Then augmented reality interface with digital signage. Then AI is as a vehicle for innovation is used in UK's transport system, in which predictive maintenance, even algorithms, they can detect the potential issues as a high fuel consumption, low tire pressure, engine performance, and alert maintenance teams to take proactive measures. This traffic management sensors, even Transport for London uses AI to predict congestion hotspots and adjust signals to ease traffic flow, thus improving how people and goods move around the capital's road network safely. Then smart infrastructure solutions are also offered in that. And here, this is how autonomous public transport will be used. Now, this how 5G transport will transform IoT in public transportation. Even data analytics is important for IoT. Why? To the significance or reasons. This data analytics is important for IoT in public transport because it transforms raw data from sensors into actionable insights. This provides the exact data. During this peak hours, suppose we are having that peak hours morning 9 to 11. How many passengers are, how many vehicles will be on the road. So this gives that data. In particularly, suppose that it will not be daily, it will be on working days or some specific days also will be there. Suppose there is one weekly market is there in particular in means cities, not in metros but in cities. One weekly market is there, and in which on that particular date more crowd is there. So this gives us that data analytics. Then which cities are leading to IT public transport? These in which London, Manchester, and Birmingham. These are the in UK system. UK. So this is advanced electric bus in modern cities showcasing urban transport innovation. So this is the new model which is working in UK. Even some of the new technologies that will transform public transport. These 5G networks, this public transport has the opportunity to intelligently deploy autonomous vehicles. Even now, these are driverless vehicles, zero emission buses nowadays, just like we are having electric buses. Then CNG buses, of course, CNG they are polluting some COX and NOx and CO2, but electric vehicle that is clean, zero pollution. Even Best has transformed all buses in Mumbai, and they are working on this electric vehicles. Even in Tirupati, from Tirumala to Tirupati, these buses, electric buses, are now functioning. Then rapid transit, just like that. Even Hyperloop is also there. Smart traffic management, then mobility as a service. Then AI is also used in traffic management. Now, this AI involves the application of advanced computer algorithms, machine learning, and data analytics to optimize the flow of vehicles and pedestrians in urban areas. Means it uses sophisticated mathematical models and data-driven techniques to analyze and control the traffic patterns. These are there are some softwares also. Names of softwares I will be showing in next slides. Now, this software monitors, plans, and controls the traffic in most efficient way. This with multiple advanced traits that improve traffic management, autonomic alerts and triggers, and enhanced image processing. So these are some of these traffic management software. Means these are offered by different 25 vendors or 25 companies, and these are working on 96 criteria. I will give just one by one because time is also restricting us to complete that slides. I am having 259 slides and still we are at 119. Means 140 slides they still have to cover, but I will cover within as per permissible time. This Cisco's systems incorporation, then Swarco AG, it is one solution that provides traffic management market. Then Siemens AG also they are providing this, that is. Then IBM Corporation, then CAPS AG, Genoptic AG, then Q-Free SA, FLIR Systems Incorporation, then Metro Infra Private Limited, LG, Atkins Group, Iteris Incorporation, Accenture PLC, Cubic Corporation, Indra Systems SA, then Afcon AG, Savari Incor, Citylock, Lennar Incorporation, Transcore LP, Intelligent Technology Private Limited. They are providing the software as a smart city software which offers video analytics and intelligent transport systems. It reduces the requirement of expensive and robust hardware by incorporating power up. Then how AI is used in driving. Just like we are using this Google Street View and video cameras inside the car. This AI stimulates human perceptual and decision-making process using deep learning and control sections in driver control system such as brakes and steering. This is the Of course, this machine learning concept is coming, supervised learning and unsupervised learning is coming. These AI algorithms are used in self-driving cars. This integrated real-time traffic information forms the backbone of Singapore. This is, of course, working successfully in Singapore ITS system. This is a land transit authority. Means just like we are having RTO in India, that is a land transit authority, and they are providing this expressway monitoring advisory system and guided parking system. This algorithm, which algorithm used for smart traffic, is the AI algorithm. This consists of red and yellow model algorithm to predict the traffic congestion on vehicles. This algorithm is used to count, detect, and track the different types of vehicles. Means whether two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers are means heavy vehicles, LCV, and different types of vehicles. This data is taken here. And there are 5 ways in which this AI in traffic management use. AI in traffic involves this. Then role of this artificial intelligence that I will give. This Copenhagen, Denmark utilize AI to manage its bicycle lanes and reduce cyclist congestion. Because imagine कि Denmark is using for bicycles. Take a means bicycles are used very rarely nowadays, but they are using this AI algorithms here. Now, this result, cycling has become a more efficient and popular mode of transportation in Denmark. Here we are using this. Of course, these are the pictures of, and slides of the advanced countries, but they are successfully implemented at present. Then traffic flow optimization. Here, this AI algorithm plays crucial role in optimizing. These algorithms leverage the wide range of data source and computational power to make real-time decisions that improve traffic efficiency. Now, these Sioux Falls in South Dakota utilize the AI to optimize the traffic signal timing. This has resulted in 15% reduction in travel times and 25% decrease in fuel consumption. Means here both, because travel time, people, if they are traveling more, then they will be causing some fatigue. Even I have read on social media, of course that will be confirmed news, not any guess or any rumors. This Amazon, they are shifting their Bangalore plant from existing Bangalore plant to Bangalore airport, nearby Bangalore airport site. Since the organizers are from Bangalore, they will be confirming whether this is right or rumor. Yes, anybody? Which I have means read this in uh, social media and news reports. This Amazon is shifting its plant to Bangalore airport site because of this 2 hours journey of their employees, and they are shifting their plans to nearby to airport so that there will be very less means traffic congestion, and plus people will be having some less fatigue, because when you are traveling for 2 hours, if you are traveling in bus or car, imagine what can be your productivity and efficiency in working. Hence they are thinking in that way, or you can confirm afterward also. But I have read this. Okay, this Amazon, they are working on this. Considering this, some other companies now they will be shifting towards other means these airport sites, so that there will be very minimum traveling time for their employees. Then reducing the congestion. Of course, this is there. Even this Los Angeles Department of Transportation implemented AI in traffic management, and that reduced traffic congestion by up to 16%. By using this predictive analytics, this system could anticipate traffic patterns and adjust signal timings accordingly. Then improving safety, because road safety is one of these challenge, and a majority of the road accidents are in India. Hence, we have to provide the safety also without any accidents or minimum accidents or hazards. These AI algorithms, coupled with cameras and sensors installed in traffic signals and roadways, constantly monitor traffic conditions. And according to that, these decisions are taken. And Even AI-based collision avoidance system in vehicles have been shown to reduce rear-end collisions by up to 70%, according to the report published by Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. Because these insurance companies, they are also affected by because of these accidents. They have to pay that compensation. Hence, they are worried about that and they are working on that. This year, AI-based collision avoidance system, they are proved that they have reduced 70% in rear end accidents collisions. Then environmental benefits, of course, this in COP Paris Agreement, every country had pledges that they will be reducing CO2 emissions, and this is also working on that environmental production. Then this AI in traffic management can optimize public transport systems, in which these smart buses and trains equipped with AI systems can adjust routes and schedules based on real-time demand and traffic conditions. Means reducing the number of vehicles on road and improve overall transportation efficiency. Even Barcelona has implemented AI system to manage its public transportation more efficiently. These have reduced the number of vehicles on road and encourage the use of electrical buses, thereby reduce emission and improved air quality. Of course, some challenges are also there when technology is there. Some drawbacks will be there, some misuse will be there, some constraints will be there. So these are some challenges. This data privacy and security, then infrastructure integration, algorithm bias, unpredictable events, then future developments and advancements. These five of 5G and edge computing, then connected and autonomous vehicles, AI powered traffic prediction, urban planning integration, then sustainable transportation. Then these are the 10 real life cases of AI in autonomous public transport system. These are the examples of 10 countries in which the Singapore autonomous buses, the Singapore has conducted successful trials of AI powered autonomous buses that focus on optimizing routes and enhancing the passenger safety. These buses are integrated into cities' larger smart transport system, showcasing how this can streamline. So this is where how it is AI is used in that. These are different parameters. Second is Waymo's autonomous ride hailing in Phoenix, USA. Means in Arizona province, they are providing this glimpse into the future of public transport. These AI-driven vehicles offer on-demand transportation and are part of cities' public transport options. Then Navia's autonomous shuttles in Lyon, France. These Navia's AI-powered shuttles operate in Lyon, means offering autonomous transport in urban areas. These shuttles connect key city points, providing efficient solution for short distance travel. Then Tokyo's AI-powered autonomous trains. This Tokyo Metro has implemented AI in its autonomous trains, ensuring punctuality and safety. Even I have read in one news uh, reports in TV news channels in which the train in Japan, it was late by 1 second, and because of this 1 second, I am imagine telling you 1 second. Be careful about the timing. 1 second, not minutes. This 1 second, this driver of that train resigned. He left the job. It is because of my fault. I have not achieved the desired timing, and it is late because of my fault. And he resigned from that post. Imagine what is the means self-respect or the devotion, dedication to the country of Japanese people. So it is there, and they are working on that. Even now, Japanese companies, they are forcibly sending their employees for holiday trips. These people are so having workaholics with them, they don't take any leave. Even they want to work on holiday also, weekdays also. But these companies, they are forcibly sending them, providing them tickets, hotel, everything. You go. Forcibly, they are sending them for holiday trips so that they should get refreshed. Then Kelios Autonomous Shuttles in Las Vegas, USA. This operates AI-driven autonomous shuttles. Uh, Last mile connectivity. These shuttles are integrated with cities' public transport, offering residents a seamless travel experience. Then China's AI-driven autonomous buses. These buses use AI for route planning, obstacle detection, and passenger safety, contributing to modernization of urban travel. Then Scotland's autonomous ferry trials. This Scotland had tested AI-powered autonomous ferries. Of course, these ferries means in sea transport. Then Dubai's AI-driven autonomous public transport initiative. Of course, Dubai is having so advanced roads and advanced road transport systems. They are successfully implementing that. Then autonomous trams in Potsdam, Germany. These AI-enabled autonomous trams have been successfully tested, demonstrating in India we are having trams in Calcutta, Howrah. But they are also not successfully used. But in Germany, they are now used trams. Then Norway's autonomous water taxis. This Norway has introduced AI-driven, and Norway is known as the best city to live or reside or retire. Means if you take the happiest countries or these best countries in the world, Norway is at the top to live there. The Norway has introduced AI-driven autonomous water taxis that offer sustainable, efficient way to navigate its jobs, reducing the need for road-based transport and contributing environmental conservation. These are some of the advantages or benefits of AI in public transport, in which this increase efficiency, reduce operational costs, reduce operational of this time also, in induce the operator e-cost and enhance passenger experience, then enhance operational cost and increase operations we are calling. This increase safety and reliability. Then here, by utilizing advanced sensors and real-time processing, AI can reduce accidents. In Tokyo, has significantly decreased the risk of collision and operational errors. This is improved reliability, cost savings, and operational efficiency, economic benefits. Case studies in Las Vegas. This, of course, these are examples which I am telling you. These are this benefit, and these are successfully implemented in particular country. These economic benefits are there, in which this in Las Vegas autonomous shuttle.
Matani sir, my humble request in the interest of time, can we move
Within
on to the
2 minutes, I will
Q&A?
wait.
We can share your slides. I think some more of the slides are
Yes,
remaining. That is what I can see. Karthik sir?
yes, yes. Within 2 minutes, I will wind, because some promising are this
Sure,
new
sure.
development.
Sure, sir.
Within two
Because
minutes.
as per the plan, we are going, so it is kind of delaying. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Any question to anybody, they can ask. We should respect the respondents also, no, participants also. If they are having any query or suggestion, so they can raise.
So thank you so much for your comprehensive presentation. In the chat, we have one of the question from Ms. Subulakshmi M. Like, how are we going to handle the side effects of too much technology in vehicles, especially amongst youth or young India?
Yes, we have to implement now these when these are successfully implemented in Japan, Tokyo, or then US, Norway. The same we can utilize in India also. Just we have to change the mindset, because now people are ready to buy the BMW car, which is costing minimum 70 lakh rupees. Money is not the problem in India now. People can purchase costliest cars. We have to change the mindset of this traffic sense or traffic road safety. What we tell ki road safety is essential, and we have to make here. That sense we have to change. That's why, because of this fear, Honorable Shri Nitin Gadkari sir is not permitting these flying taxis or driverless cars in India. Only because of this reason. So we have to change the mindset of these operators and drivers. What we call drivers are pedestrians or road users.
Yes. So you have another question. Can country like India should go for AI-based cars? Buses, I think just now I answered, will
Yes,
affect the
yes, yes,
environment
yes,
in
yes.
transportation sector?
Yes, sir. AI is affecting everything now. Even AI have been used by students I am telling you one case of this copying, just like copying case we call it, since we are teachers. This AI or generative AI application was used by one LLB student, and this came to Punjab and Haryana High Court. This student has used a generative AI in assessment. When they are students are using generative AI, then definitely on road in vehicles we can use that, and these are successfully used in developed countries. Of course, now new buses, new vehicles, they will be fitted with the software also.
So
Of
we
course,
have
its cost will be more, but
yeah.
they will be getting that benefits. Features we will be having. Just
Okay.
like people are purchasing BMW car 70 lakh rupees, 2 lakhs rupees cars is also there. Tata Nano and Maruti Suzuki 3 and 4 lakhs car is there, but BMW car is also sold 70
Correct.
lakh rupees. Means people are ready to pay for have comfort and luxury and aesthetics. Same will be used here. Yes,
Yes.
definitely it is used.
Yeah. So we have one last question from Dr. M. Saravanan.
Yes, sir.
Technologies are very good. Are we strong in adopting all transportation rules properly?
Sir, here we have to make. Now I am telling you, India is on that part. Even in I am in Maharashtra, and I am telling you now. Suppose you are parking your vehicle just adjacent parking. Traffic police will not ask you. Just he will take the photo of your mobile, this vehicle number, and automatically that penalty is deducted from your bank account. In Maharashtra, it is working. When in Maharashtra it is working, definitely at India level in metros it will be there. And they are
Okay.
working. Now people, the mindset of people and drivers are working. They are changing. Now they are ready to pay.
Yeah. Think respondent, dear participants, I think that's all the questions which I saw.
Uh,
Dr. Ashok ji.
one or two reflections we can take, Karthik sir. I think Royce and Dr. Aarti was supposed to be. Are you there, Royce and Dr. Aarti? Or if anyone is interested, we can take the last reflection and then we'll be able to. Yes, I can see Barreto Royce. Okay, can somebody unmute him?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, access is given, ma'am. You can unmute. Roy, sir, you can unmute yourself now.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. So the sessions today were so informative, and I am also pursuing my PhD in smart city.
Very
And the
nice.
insights that I have received today in terms of the challenges, limitations, and all the things were really, really useful for my PhD, and I am going to take it forward in making my survey and also getting relevant insights from it.
Thank you so
So
much, Roy,
thank
sir.
you. I believe that's insightful for you. Karthik sir, you can carry on.
Yeah, yeah. Ashok, sir, there's one
Yes, sir.
last question
Yes.
because it's the second time it's been posted by Mr. Dinesh. How
Oh.
technological errors impact infrastructure, especially from transport?
Yes,
Sir, can you
there
hear
are
me?
some threats also. These problems of data secrecy is one of the challenge in which cyber attacks are now going on. Cyber threats are there. This data, this is one of the challenge, but it can be controlled. It is not that much sensitive because it is not related with any financial. It is related with the only statics and infrastructure also. Means up to updated infrastructure, updated softwares will be required there. Advanced versions of these AI algorithms will be required. Just like we are tuning nowadays of 5G mobiles are coming, same here we using these advanced technologies. Now in cars, the sensors are coming when just we are locking the vehicle, and suppose you are away from your vehicle, and if anybody touches your vehicle, then sensors are giving that horn. Same means this advanced technology is there. Same will be AI algorithms will be used here again. Of course, this will be advanced versions, but we have to tune with that advanced versions.
We have Miss Dr. Anita wants to share a reflection. Anita, ma'am, if you're there, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, good evening, sir. So, am I audible?
Yes,
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 ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, good evening, ma'am. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Matani, sir. It's a very insightful session, and I felt so good to listen all these sessions regarding all these three sessions on the smart cities. Though infrastructure is very important part of our society, or we can say the economic development also, as well as social development. In the first session, Ravi sir elaborate like the smart cities, and the most important thing he has explained regarding three most important thing we need to explain the smart cities. First is people, information, and then place. So if we are concerning about our smart cities, so we should be more responsible to explain our role and duties in towards our as a as a citizen. Second thing is that as Mathani sir has explained very well, though time constraint, due to time constraint, he has not completed PIPPT, but we were so thankful to sir that he has explained transportation system in a very beautiful manner, infrastructure system in a transportation infrastructure, that nowadays smart cities, just because not only for the information only, but the implementation of all these things can create a smart city. And due to the there is a thing that necessity the mother of invention. Nowadays if we can see an example, like in a five members of family, so four people are working, so we are having less time. We can spend our money, but we need to save our time so that we can utilize that particular time in a fruitful experiment or some research or some business, like these things. So once again, thank you so much all the organizers, and thank you so much for providing us this much of insightful sessions, and thank you so much to all of you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
So, Karthik sir, I think we are good to close today's session.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of you all, on behalf of the organizers, AACT and St. Francis College, heartfelt thanks and gratitude to Dr. Ashok G. Matani, retired professor, Mechanical Engineering Department, Government College of Engineering, Jalgaon, Maharashtra. Sir, thank you so much. Please accept our gratitude on behalf of every one of
It
us,
is my pleasure. Yeah, I am with you.
giving us the realistic examples of across, so whatever that you were possible within the time span. I'm very sure participants must have learned from your elaborative session. Thank you so much, sir, once again.
Thank you.
So all the participants, I can still see 188 of you are still there. Thank you so much for attending the day two sessions, all the three sessions. Thank you so much to all of you. We will look forward for your presence in the coming days' presentations and sessions as well. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much for today's St. Francis organizers. We had Miss Netra, HOD of Department of Management, Miss Anusha from the MBA department, and we had Mr. Arish, who is handling the technical part. Thank you so much, all three of you, for being your presence here and helping us out to host this session for day two. Thank you so much. Thank you, all the participants. Thank you so much, sir.
So thank you so much, Matani sir. I'd
Yes.
say it was the last moment, but really, I know I really appreciate the number of slides. So thank you so much for your participation. And Anusha ma'am, Netra ma'am, Hari sir, my heartfelt thank you to all of you. And participant, I hope it was indeed a learning evening today. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much and have a good night to all of you.